All right. I thought I was going to get going a little earlier. I had a little bit of trouble setting up this new mic that I got for my birthday, which I'm actually really excited about. So hopefully that improves the audio quality. And you guys can let me know as I'm going in the chats. It's weird because I can't personally hear it. So because, through StreamYard, it's not like you get any. I don't get any of my own vocals um, through my headphones. I just get other people, like if I have other people in the stream. But yeah, I'm excited, and I think it'll improve the audio quality in theory. If not, and it doesn't improve the audio quality, then I'll have to hopefully just go back to like the old Snowball. That's like I've been recording on a Snowball since like the inception of podcasts. So it felt like it was about time, but hopefully this doesn't pop too much or make any issues. And I think it's convenient because I can move it, and hopefully it doesn't make a ton of noise like when I do that kind of movement. But the cool thing is I can move it as I work, and so that can allow me to hopefully like get better audio. So okay, cool. And then Jake was saying it booms when I talk directly into it, which is great. So I will learn the distance that works as we go. So maybe if it's like a little bit further back, that might actually be better. So is this good, Jake? I'm curious. But that's also awesome because if I want to like blow people's ears out, I can pull it a little tighter. But anyhow, pretty excited about that. It's nice to have a new mic. I think regardless, even if this mic itself doesn't work, I'll probably be using like the Snowball like attached to the arm or whatever. But that's all like streaming stuff. So, and then Luhan said he's going to hop on in like 10 minutes. And thank you, Jake. Okay, Jake's saying it's a good enough distance, so I think we're good to go. Oh, you know what? I should shoot Jake. Let's see here. I should actually. New camera. Other new camera that's terrible. So I'm just using it as like a close up of my hand while I draw. Paul Pate said, "Silky smooth animation, Josh." Okay, and I'm gonna have to send all of you guys links. So let me see, because it'd be fun to have like a little full house here. So let me see. Jake was like, I should shoot Jake. That sounds about right. So I think I got interrupted mid idea. I should shoot you a link. I'll be right. Hang on. Let me get everybody links. Get this thing going. And then I'll do introductions and all that fun stuff. Probably should show my book and explain to people who I am. So let me see if I can get to the. So I'm looking for the general chat. There we go. And I'm just going to shoot you a link first. Let's see here. Where is it? Why am I not seeing? Okay. And here we go. Okay. So I'm sending you a link, Jake, if you want to hop on. Jim Luhan's already got his. And Paul, you don't have to feel obligated, but if you want to hop on, I will shoot you a link as well. Because the more the merrier on these streams is my take on it. So let me see, Paul. And let me send you a link too. And there we go. We've got everybody with a link. All right. So Jake, I'm going to add to the stream, and then I'm going to get rid of all these extra cameras. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, man.
All right. Let me get this all set back to normal. All right. There we go. What you up?
It's not been a funny Sunday. That's for sure.
Oh, no. Bad Sunday?
I woke up like 2 p.m.
Uh-huh.
And I was gnashing teeth and all that stuff, so just regular sleep problems. And then
Oh,
I check
no.
my Twitter, and then I get a message from the editor, and he says, "Yo, you got the page 1 ready?" And I'm like, "What?"
Oh no.
Yeah, we're launching a campaign tomorrow, and I'm like, what? No, fuck, I haven't drawn it out. No, stop. And I'm like making up a bunch of excuses and stuff, and I know Jacob will be watching this, so yeah, the truth is out there. I did not prepare for the page at all.
Oh no.
Except for like thumbs.
Oh man,
yeah.
caught, found out. You guys, this is an
So-
exclusive. Jake dropped the ball on a deadline. I'm just kidding.
So
That sucks.
I did not drop the ball. I got 2 hours until he wakes up, and yeah, a little under 2 hours.
You're gonna make it happen. I'm sure you'll make it happen.
I'm lettering right now as we speak. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, and I should let people know I like to do this just for anybody who might stumble upon this stream. So, what is this stream? This is the stream where I usually work on book 2 of 2 stories. Book 1 of 2 stories, I'll just briefly show it, is my graphic novel here about faith and mental illness. And you can pick it up on Amazon for like a reduced cost. It's like 60% off or something ridiculous right now. And book 2 is what I'm working on. So as I'm streaming, you'll notice that like what starts appearing on the screen is like the rough thumbnails for the next 120 so page book. And then often I'll have like friends on, like Jake, who like are also cartoonists usually, or other creatives, and we all kind of work together and have like a work session, and quite often end up devolving into weird conversations about philosophy, which is exactly my speed. Like that's my favorite thing to do. So oh, and I was also going to say at some point in this stream I'm going to play Jim Lujan cartoon with my voice, which is really exciting. Jim had me be a voice actor for his upcoming animation that kind of makes fun of it in a friendly way, is like kind of making fun of like hip churches. And so I'm the voice of the cool pastor in the church, which is pretty hilarious. So I'll play that coming up shortly. And then Jake does cartoons. Well, Jake, do you want to let people know a little bit about yourself, like where they can check out your work and all that fun stuff before we kind of get into it?
My name is Jake Twister. I'm a mediumancer and visual illusionist, and I'm a comics entrepreneur per se. I write, draw, edit, letter, all the kind of like stuff that you don't want to do when it comes to comics by myself. And yeah, I'm currently now working with my upcoming submission for a Indiegogo campaign with the CG UK crowd, which is going to be about twisted fairy tales.
Nice.
So I'm working on my page 1 submission, and as I've stated, yeah, I am behind. I'm slacking, and I'm trying to recoup the costs.
I've been there before, though. Especially, I've definitely had some scenarios, especially when I was like full-time freelance, where it's like, you thought you had the deadline like right, and then it's like that last minute scramble to make it happen. Although in general, it tends to be possible to make it happen, and at least you've communicated, so that's good. That's what I always recommend, is like if you're ever working like professionally in like illustration or cartooning or anything like that, let people know if you're going to blow the deadline. The only thing people usually get upset about, well, it depends. In editorial, like if it's an editorial illustration, you're screwed. Like, and you probably won't get work, because if like a newspaper or something has to run tomorrow morning and you didn't hit the deadline, like that there's no real compensating for that. But in general, like most of the time people are pretty understanding, especially if you give them just like a heads up. So at least in my experience, like the only times I've ever had issues are when there was no communication involved. But the cool thing is if you haul it and make it happen, like you might end up with a better page. Because weirdly enough, sometimes when you have that like deadline looming, you can make some pretty cool work, because all that fear it like you don't have time for it. Like the fear an artist usually feels. Yeah.
So I had like the craziest like hectic day like draw wise,
Yeah.
and I just summoned all of my shortcuts,
Yeah.
and I was on deck. Like I hadn't done the thumbs properly. I had some kind of like a navigation like where I wanted the picture to go, but now that I feel like a little bit more constrained with the time, I'm sort of like put on task to find the creative solutions that we've previously talked about. Like you find them in like weird instances that you never considered wanting to like put it into work, and now I've done that. But for me, it did not stop like with a deadline and drawing and all that stuff. I realized like a couple of hours ago, I think it was like 2, 1,
Uh-huh.
I don't remember. It's been a long drawn out day, all right. I noticed that I have been drawing in A5 and not in A3. So for your Americans, that will be 8 by 7 or something, and not by 11 by 17.
And you needed to be working in 11 by 17?
Mm-hmm. So I had to
Oh no.
and I shit you not. I was there fuming over having like slaving on this thing for about 14 hours, and I realized that I've been drawing a size too short, and now all of the layout and all the paneling and everything is going to be looking wonky because I have to like rescale everything.
Oh no.
And I haven't like done any layer organizations, so it's all jumbled. So I just threw it in on the 11 by 17, and I just like gave up, really.
Oh no. That sounds
So
like a
now
rough day.
So now I'm just like trying to play pretty touch up and everything, and now I'm just like playing around. I can actually show the page just for viewers' sake.
Yeah,
So
definitely show it.
It is not not safe for work just yet.
Nice. Okay. Cool. As long as we're good. It's not like I'm monetized yet, so we're probably okay. But still, I like having a channel. All right. Let's throw this up there. Let's see. Is this it?
Screen 2.
Yeah. Be. There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So here we have the chaos that I've been working on for a better part of a day.
Oh, dude, I love the dude with the beard. It reminds me a lot of like Mr. Gone. Do you remember Mr. Gone from like the Max?
Oh no, I have not read the Max. I'm sorry.
Oh, dude, totally worth checking out. I haven't.
I've been wanting to delve into Sam Keith for a while, but I haven't had the time really.
Yeah, I haven't read it for years. Like I just kind of, it was one of my favorites when I was younger, and I was such a fan that I'm like printed in the issues. Like some of the early issues, there's like exchanges with me and my pen pal in there. But yeah, the way you're rendering that dude with the beard like reminds me heavily of Mr. Gone. That's really awesome. Also, I really like that that third house in there is really cool. It's very nicely done. Yeah, I like the looseness to it.
Yeah, I really like to draw loose with buildings. Now this is obviously traced, but I've done my own like tweaks to the thing to give it life into its own. I've adjusted the staircase. I've changed the signage and everything. I shortened like parts of the house because I didn't feel like it was necessary to have like a full row. In a sense, and I added like a like that front part here. I added one like in the back there, vaguely.
Nice.
But everything here is just like it's fun, like doing.
Very cool.
I mean, this one is completely like original, so you can definitely tell that this one is not traced or like put up into like any photography or something.
Nice. I like it though. That's an interesting kind of rad page. So that's the reformatted one?
Yeah, this is the reformat one.
Nice. Very nice. Cool. Thank you for sharing that. Exclusive, you guys, a Jake Pfister page from the upcoming anthology that he's submitting to, which is kind of cool. So very
thanks,
cool.
Paul.
And then Paul Pate, great illustrator, animator as well. Let's see here. So it's looking like this might end up being a bit of an animation stream, which is kind of cool.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
I love it. Yeah, they've got similar forefathers, the cartooning and comics and animation. Sweet. Is that a Jim Lujan? That's a Jim Lujan. How's it going, Jim Lujan?
Jim.
Oh, we're not hearing you. We have no audio. All right. So I think Jim's gonna figure out the audio. Maybe we can just give me a thumbs up, Jim, when you're ready. Let me see. I think I threw him on a little too early. So, all right. So let's see. I have to start working on my comic too. So what page are you working on right now? The next?
No. Now I'm working on lettering, and I'm aiming to like deliver that in within like the hour or so.
Oh, dude, Corey said this might be a real party. Yeah, Corey, you should hop in on this too. Why not? The more the merrier. Corey, do you want me to send you a link? I think you have access anyway, man. Oh, Jim disappeared. All right. Well, Jim will come back on, I'm sure. And then he's probably having to reboot his computer. And then Frank was saying, who on earth came up with the theme to the latest 9-volt anthology? I don't know that, but Jake, do you?
Yeah, I do.
It sounds like you don't want to say it.
And he's really eager to wanting the cred for it, but I'm not going to entertain the thought. It's not to spite him. It's not to spite him. Okay,
not just that
he takes a lot of pride of having credit to his attachments on certain things. And,
okay. I have a strange feeling. Is it somebody whose name starts with F and their last name starts with S? Just guessing here.
Those insignias might be. Those initials might be right.
Those sound a little familiar. Yeah, I have a suspicion.
Sounds really familiar. The name is Salamander.
So the person we're speaking of is Frank Salazar of Tarako Creative Cast, and I'm guessing, came up with the theme. Don't take it on me though, because I really have no idea. But that's awesome. That's a good theme. Twisted Fairy Tales is always fun. There's been a lot of good work, like in that range, you know.
Yeah. I got the Bollywood Conte de Fées in the mail a couple of weeks ago, I think. Soon to be a week. A lot of erotic fairy tale stories by Wally himself.
Nice. Yeah, Wally Wood got kind of freaky.
Yeah, he got really freaky in the 50s, all the way up to the 70s.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting thing. Like, a lot of people aren't aware of some of the more, like, you know, nuanced genres in comics. And I remember, like, you know, like, I love Fantagraphics as a publisher, but a lot of people don't realize, like, Eros, the porn side of it, is like that's what funds, like, that's what's kept Fantagraphics afloat for years, you know. So it's like, it's one of those things where that's not something I'd want to make, like, personally. Like, I've never just thought of a story where I'd need to, but at the same time, like, I definitely feel like people are, like, too cocky about it, where they're just like, oh, that's terrible. Like, don't realize, like, a lot of that content's, like, keeping comics alive, like, because it sells. And so it's like, there's definitely a place for it, for sure. So let's see here. Pouring. This is going to be hard to illustrate because I'm talking about tears and all this emotional stuff, and it's going to be interesting to try to do this in a way that is not just inevitably laugh-inducing. It's a hard thing to do.
Or what do you think? Like, laugh. What do you refer to that?
Oh, so like meaning like whenever you animate like someone crying, right? It's you always run the risk. And I'd actually Jim was saying he's just putting
quarters.
just putting quarters into my computer. I just imagine that machine from that Wallace and Gromit bit where they go to the moon and there's like that quarter machine. I just imagine that's Jim's computer. Just give me a thumbs up, Paul, whenever you're ready too. I don't want to throw you on unless you're ready. So I've been making that mistake before, and I realized like sometimes people prefer to prep before you just throw them on there. Oh, did we get a thumbs up? I think we did. Oh, maybe not. Okay, I'll wait. So let's see here. I fell down. So anyhow, what I was saying about like crying stuff, Paul, are you good? I can't. Oh, okay. Oh, perfect. Okay, there we go. Let's get Paul on here. Paul Pates, how's it going?
Good. I can't believe I'm still awake.
That's craziness, man. What time is it for you?
It's 12:30.
Wow.
My wife and I just came in from outside. We had a bonfire.
Oh, nice. That sounds awesome.
So we were out there for quite a few hours, actually, and it was really nice. And we just came in a little while ago, and I saw you were starting your stream, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to be up for it.
Sweet. You know? As long as you're down, and just this goes for anybody who's a guest on here, but it's like you guys never have to feel obligated to stay the whole time. It's kind of like a casual hangout. So if it gets super late or early there. That sounds nice, though. A bonfire. Wow, that sounds awesome.
I don't know if you guys probably don't do those there in California.
So
run the risk of burning the whole state down.
So it depends. I mean, there's different areas where you can do it, and then like when my wife and I used to live closer to Huntington Beach, there's actually a beach. Like on that stretch of PCH where you can actually legally do big fire pits. Oh, okay. And so we'd have like a lot of like bonfires on the beach, especially in college, which was super fun. But yeah. How's it going, Jim Lujan?
It works. Now you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hello.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Paul. How are you?
How's it going? Jake, that was a great looking page you showed there.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, very cool.
I tried my best.
When did you have to start that page? Because you were saying this was like a last minute deadline thing. So
I started 14 hours ago, or 16.
That's pretty impressive, man. For sure. All right, so I want to real quick before we all get into it. I actually am going to just see if this will play because I've never actually tried this on here, but I want to play Jim's short clip animation. Maybe he can tee it up. This is the clip that you gave me, and so I'm kind of curious. What's the cartoon? What is this like a scene from that you? What can you reveal?
Yes, I can. This is a scene. I had Joshua play a character named Pastor Kyle, and it's from a movie I'm working on right now called Pleasure Beast.
It's the best.
And it's a film. It's about a housewife who gets a visit from an old acquaintance, and her life is thrown into chaos, kind of. But within this whole thing, there's this church that's kind of like it's kind of like a modern church, you know, kind of like a real hipster-ish church. And Josh is the pastor there, named Pastor Kyle, and he's like a righteous dude. And Josh nails it. So I've been
righteous.
I've been animating Josh for the last couple of days, so that's been nice. So.
It's been pretty awesome. I've been digging it. I got a kick out of just seeing it because it's kind of one thing to like do the voice stuff and have Jim kind of walk me through it and stuff, and then it's a totally different thing when you suddenly can see the whole thing come together. So here it is, very brief sneak preview exclusive of a very brief scene of Pastor Kyle, my character from Pleasure Beast. Here we go. Let's see if this works.
Very nice. Brianna jamming out for the Lord. That was super rad. We're super stoked that Brianna is going to be playing at our Bridge Harvest fundraiser Saturday night.
Oh, man.
So y'all be sure to get out and make it happen. It's going to be so dope.
That makes me so proud to be a part of that.
It's a world exclusive, right here on the Night
I
Gang.
don't know if you, yes, I don't know if you've seen the YouTube channel, but there's this channel called Slouch. It eerily reminds me of that same style.
Is it slouch or is it like slouse or like with an E at the end?
Slouch, like you're slouching.
So it's spelled SLOUCH?
CH, yeah.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that. There's another one called SLOUICE. And it's by the guy that did, he's alumni along with me on the Rugburn channel that Titmouse put out.
Okay.
I forgot his name, but he did Apollo Gauntlet. That's what he did. And yeah, I just saw it a couple days ago. But no, now thank you for the tip, Jake. I'll check it out. So on YouTube, Slouch.
Yeah, Slouch.
Okay, I'll definitely check it out.
It's either Slouch or Slouch TV.
Okay.
Either or. But if you really want to like get into it, there's also the channel Minute Hour, and he's done some animations there too for the channel.
Oh,
Cool.
well, Josh will assemble all the links that we mentioned today in the
Yeah, I'm so lazy with these streams. Like my links are literally.
Are you taking
Yeah.
minutes
You know what?
of this
I'll dig him up for you.
I do need to like try to get somebody to like what would be convenient if someone had the time would be to go through these streams and like timestamp them for people who don't want to listen for like 5 hours, you know, like but I do not have that time. Nor
thank you for the
inclination to
link,
do it.
right? The link, he put the link, Jake, and the thank you in the notes.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the last time we did one of these, Josh, I got a lot done. And actually, I plan to do that tonight. I'm just charging my iPad. Just
Awesome.
one of the wonders of modern technology is that you could be all juiced up to work, but if your iPad's not juiced up, you're not gonna get anything done.
It's like the modern equivalent to like being all ready to ink, and then like you dip in the inkwell and it's empty. You're like, crap.
Yeah. And then the Curb Your Enthusiasm thing plays.
Yeah. I'm out of typewriter ribbon.
Yeah.
I got mine all charged up. I'm at 100%, I think. Yeah, I'm at 100%.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to be experiencing that a bit. So today I got like a gimbal, like one of those little like camera gimbal things for my phone. And so I'm going to use that like in theory, if I'm better with it, because like I really had this idea that I'd be doing these in-store visits to like just hustle and push my book to like local stores, and that I would do a little tour of the store, because I was just like, that would be really cool content, because there's so many good comic shops in Southern California, you know. And that devolved into like basically like clips after the fact where it's like, I just went to a store and it was awesome. So I'm hoping that I remember to like film some of the actual in-stores that I do, and like show off the stores a little bit too. I think would be kind of cool and interesting for people, you know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So Josh, what program you're using StreamYard, right, to do this?
Yeah.
In theory, I know StreamYard costs money, but in theory, you could even do your own like network. Like you could broadcast like 3 hours or whatever of live programming if you wanted, if you made movies. Or you could play all your music videos if you want, like your own Josh TV.
That's interesting. Well, it is kind of cool to know that I can like share those clips. Like that's pretty awesome. I didn't know how to do that before. So
yeah, it came out really clear too. So that's cool.
I learned a new thing today.
All right.
Yeah. So take that, Corey. I only say that because like Corey Curry is like, well, I mean, you guys know he's like a technical genius. So it's like anytime I can understand anything remotely technical, I feel like pretty good about it. So I do have a question. This came up just because I am drawing it, but it's like, how do you guys? So if you're not doing comedy, how do you handle like a crying scene? Because it's so hard to me to do people like to draw somebody crying and try to do it sincerely is like it just maybe it's like me being cynical or something like that, but it's like I don't think that's an easy task. I could easily do like, like the anime crying where it's like the big long tears, and you're like, oh no, why? Anyhow, whatever.
Sewage leaking.
Are you thinking that the facial expression is going to be just too hard, Josh? Or
I don't know. It's just a hard.
I think you can pull it off. You just got
I'm gonna try.
his face.
Yeah.
I drew a portrait of somebody crying one time.
Yeah, it's just a hard. I guess my point is like, I guess it's one of those things that if you get it wrong, it's going to be really hilarious, but not where you want it to be hilarious.
Yeah.
When Paul said that he drew a portrait of somebody crying, I pictured him in the park, like
nice.
Right.
That's true. It just pans back to like, or it just pans back to like our last.
Your mother
stream.
was a whore.
Or it's just our last stream and Paul's just drawing portraits of all of us. As we're like,
he's like, I gotta finish this drawing before the paramedics get here.
Crying is like it produces an ugly face. I hear it's like an ugly expression.
Yeah,
and there's just one guy that I know that could like capture it in animation at least. It's the guy that did Letter to Momo and Jinro, and his way of like conveying emotional sadness is that he like tries to put emphasis on the creases of the face, like the spots that you expect to be shown as if we're like creating that ugly expression before you start like developing tears. That is wholly unique to any type of like anime that I've seen that has handled crying, at least in that level.
I noticed that Corey and Gary are both viewing right now.
Oh, dude, I need to get Gary in on this. This is going to be crazy. So you guys, I'm going to try this. I'm going to be inviting a lot of people on this. And if it devolves into people like talking over each other too much, like I might have to kick some people out.
Well, I'm going to be drawing. Hey, but while you're doing that, I wanted to mention something about Corey. Is that it's been proven that we only use 15% of our brain and Corey uses the rest of it. So that's why we're short.
I'm fine with that.
I love it.
Corey, I want it back. I'm not even using my 15%, by the way.
Yeah, I was just like, get some good use out of it.
I love it. So, Paul, are you working on your slop comic?
Yeah. I sure am. Nice. If you guys want to, I'm in the middle of I just kind of got a page going here.
Oh,
see
cool.
if I can show it to you. Pull my camera down.
Yeah, I want to see what everyone's working on here.
There's a page.
Sweet.
It's coming along quite good.
Oops.
Nice, Paul.
Actually, let me show you real quick. Let me show you the previous page. This character is Booger the Hooker.
Corey said, I've co-opted Jim's brain like a server farm.
Corey, you picked the wrong girl to dance with on that one, man. You should find a more powerful brain than mine right now.
I was gonna, well, that's where I was gonna do a diss, but Jim is incredibly intelligent, so I don't want to. But I was gonna say you could do some kind of play on like the memory shortage and like that's currently happening with coin farming.
I had to reboot my brain. Mm-hmm. Wow, Paul, that looks amazing.
That does look amazing. That looks super, super
colors.
lovely.
I like that.
And Paul, you knocked those pages out like pretty quickly, like from what I recall. Like, so like how long did you spend on that page, out of curiosity?
Oh yeah, a few hours. This one 2 or 3 hours, I think.
2 or 3 hours.
Damn. I would put
That's-
me to shame. Fuck.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's mostly just faces here, so.
Yeah, but that's still pretty impressive, man. Yeah, Paul like knocks out graphic novels like,
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
us.
I know, right.
Yeah. If I like make a bowl of Cheerios in the morning, by the time that bowl is done, like Paul's done with a graphic novel.
Yeah, this one's coming along slowly, actually.
I constantly forget because I talk to Paul so much, but I constantly forget how good you are, Paul. It's amazing. Like I forget. I'm like, oh yeah. Besides, I know the guy. Oh yeah, you're really super talented. I forgot. That's it's amazing.
Isn't that like
Thanks.
a kind of trip when you realize like I've actually had that with you, Jim, too, where like we'll hang out or something when we were doing those meetups, and I would like almost forget because we, it's like we become friends, so I'd almost forget how good you are. And then like you'd show like one of your, oh, I'm working on this, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're good. Like it's weird how that happens, but I think I think that's the most fun part of having like creative friendships. Like honestly,
It's usually because you were staring into each other's eyes.
yeah, there's that too.
We get lost.
Yeah, that's actually the panel with the crying that I was talking about needing to draw. There was when my autobio talks about me and Jim just staring blankly at each other's eyes and tearing up.
Oh, by the way, Josh, you know I'm married, right? I just wanted
That's why there were tears at the time.
Yeah. The one that got away.
I don't want to bring us all down, but we're all really just here, just prepping for Kevin Cross's big appearance this week on Artcasters. Josh is just working out material for it,
That's actually a really good plug. I'm really excited about having Kevin on. I've kept in touch with him, but still, like, it's always awesome to have him on. And I think he's going to be talking about like rebooting and is potentially going to be generating more content again. And I just think that's really cool because, like, speaking of talented friends, right? Like, he's too good of a cartoonist, so I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, art and story should be good.
Yeah, I like it because we all have different kind of styles too. Yeah, except for me and Paul, we draw exactly the same. But we all have I can identify out everybody's style pretty much.
Yeah,
just by looking.
Hey Jim, so is my contribution to your Pleasure Beast film still in the film, or is that on the cutting room floor? Do you even remember what my contribution was?
Sent some technical stuff. I don't know yet. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. The scene that you kind of gave me some ideas for dialogue in is the scene after the one I'm working on right now. So I have to finish this one, then I jump to that one. I don't know. It's funny that you mentioned that.
I just hope it doesn't make it to, or it doesn't get to the cutting room floor, or whatever, how they say,
Oh, probably will, but no. No, I'm in the play, and it's funny because you guys probably don't go through this, or maybe you do with graphic novels and comics. But do you find yourselves having to trim stuff down a lot, like cut a lot in order to fit a certain page count?
No.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know, Jake. Do you have that though? With like, I mean, because you're doing anthologies and like shorter comics too. So like with those, do you find yourself like having to kind of condense like a much more complicated idea?
It depends.
Yeah.
It's not that I work exclusively with short stories. I do work with long form content as well. It's just that I take my time calculating everything because everything to me is more like a mathematical equation that I set up for like a puzzle. For each project. So I count first I count the pages that it require for the story to play itself out. So if I say like this story will be taking 10 pages, I got to calculate what's the average panel count that I'm going to use. So if it's like 5 or 6, I'm going based on that, and I times that per page, and then I get like the average estimate of that, and then I go for like a maximum and a minimum if possible, and then I just do a bunch of like other equations onto that with the panel layouts, the grids, the gutter measurements, and all that stuff.
Yeah, Corey was saying he trims a ridiculous amount of everything he does. He's not succinct. I feel I do that a lot, but usually at the script phase, because like I don't to me, it's like I'd rather like get it out of the script with like another iteration than like draw a bunch of it and create a bunch of assets that I can't use, you know, like.
Oh yeah, I'm talking like pre-script. Everything that I said there is all
Yeah.
pre-script.
Yeah, that's true.
So what's this script thing you guys are talking about? What? I'm finding that this is the case always, because with animation you're not really supposed to ad lib, but I'm finding that with every project I've ever done in animation, including Revengeance, you get to a certain point and you go, you know what would work even better right now, and that, you know, and you have to hit the brakes. And I'm doing that with Pleasure Beast too. I'm trying to I cut out a big segment of it that I was going to do, and I just thought, you know what, it works better without it, and I hate to do it, but I had just certain things, and I'm at that stage right now. But you know what, time is the cure for that, because when you have distance from it, I think you could look back and go, like when you can watch it with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh no, this does work, or that's so. It's all about not rushing it. When you're an independent, that's one benefit you have, but you forget that you have it, is that you don't have a deadline.
Yeah.
So, which kills some independents too, because they're like, I don't have a deadline. I could work on this for 3 more years, and you know, I could do this for.
Oh no, my savings.
So, but yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I'm letting my iPad recharge. Those 2 things.
I like that though. And actually, I think my little bit of animation, I barely got into it, but it was like I did these like music videos, just learning After Effects and stuff, and like that process was way more like music to me than like a graphic novel. Like, and I think there is a thing with music. Gary, by the way, just give me a thumbs up if you're good to go on. Okay, cool. I never like throwing people on when they're not ready. All right, how's it going, Gary?
That. I'm pretty sure. I'm naked.
Wow. Hey, Gary.
Sorry.
Hey, Gary.
Sorry.
Look at this. We need a.
Hey, how are we? Oh wait, no. Here, fist bump. There we go.
So
Nice.
we're gonna need a 6th guest too. Like whenever Corey, I think Corey's hopping on at some point in the future, so that'll fill out. Like Corey, do you see how this is not aesthetically ideal? We need 3 and 3. We need balance, Corey.
Let me just point out that Paul is trying to do the wet willy.
Yeah,
but he was doing it to the wrong side of the camera, which actually makes it even more creepy. Because it just makes no sense, and
no
it just
sense
looks
at all.
I love it. So, Gary, now that you're hopping on, do you want to let people know where they can get the coolest horror comic about Martians, dinosaurs versus Mars bots? That's
an easy title to have, because I think it's probably the only comic about Martians and dinosaurs and Mars bots. So
don't mention that.
100% the best one. 100%. You can go to. You can find all my links on my Instagram. Dinosaurs vs Mars bots. Dinosaurs versus Mars bots. There's a link to my Etsy shop. There's a link to my YouTube. You can see content on the Instagram, of course. You can find everything there. But I think I have like 1 copy of E vs. M 1997, which is the 2nd installment in the series left. That's going to sell out, and then there'll be a limited edition cover version that I'm going to release.
Nice.
So let me do my Brady Bunch move.
There you go.
I absolutely adore it. That's great. So, Corey, welcome. You looked like a frightening leprechaun when you first appeared, because there was just this glowing green.
I was so excited to get on, but I'm eating tamales, and so I had to finish. There's only a few times where I miss living in California, and when I eat store-bought tamales instead of parking lot tamales, that's one of the times.
By the way, I watched the Friends reunion today, and this is exactly what they were talking about. So
parking lot tamales.
Parking lot tamales.
Yeah, when you make $3 million an episode for like 10 years.
Why did you eat those parking lot tamales? Yeah. Why did you eat those parking lot tamales? We were on a break. So, what are you working on, Gary? What
I'm in
keeps you up late right now?
revision stage of the third Dinosaurs versus Marsbots comic of the script.
Nice.
So
Nice.
trying to get it to a point where I feel like it's about what I want, and then I can start passing it in front of people to get a little bit of feedback, get some extra eyes on it. So
Nice.
writing mode.
Okay, and
Actually,
I need
superior form of writing mode, which is edit revision mode, which is way more satisfying. Writing mode is terrible, but edit revision mode is
Gary, I had a question for Gary. But when all of the UFO stuff is proven, are you going to have to get any kind of legal clearance from Mars?
I'm actually worried that it's going to blow up some of my plans for the rest of the series. Like, I mean, not worried, not sitting there like, oh, but I mean, depending on if something really did come out, I don't know if that makes like silly comics about conspiracy theories more or less interesting. So
That's true. That's true.
But actually, a ton of things have come out. Nobody seems to care. But they're always
No,
like,
I know, and I'll go on record. I really want it to be true. I'm rooting so hard for it to be true.
You a Bob Lazar fan?
I'm ready to go back to the mothership.
I love watching and reading about Bob Lazar. I can't decide if he's.
Oh, Jim, come on! You got to do your Jeremy Corbell, Jeremy Corbell, or whatever that guy.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Do any of you guys know who Jeremy Corbell is?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Wait. Let me be like a good host here and be like, ladies and gentlemen, comedian Jim Lujan doing his Jeremy Corbell impression.
But thanks for the pressure.
Maybe you should introduce him to the audience in case people aren't familiar, if they're not that deep in UFO lore.
They can actually. He's the guy that did a documentary on Bob Lazar, who is, and I'll explain that to you in the next episode. And he's just a UFO documentarian, but he's kind of like a bearded. I don't want to say he's a hipster, but he's kind of a younger. Like he's not like an old fogey. He's like a. But he talks. Everything he says is very specifically said in a way to weaponize your curiosity. Very, very well spoken.
That's pretty good.
It's almost like he speaks almost scripted, and I think that's pretty. He doesn't stammer. So I did that with Paul.
Did you watch that terrible documentary he did that was narrated by Mickey Rourke of all people?
It was the Bob Lazar one, yeah.
It was so.
Yeah, I mean, like, why did they get Mickey Rourke to do this thing?
Why indeed? Why?
He's an alien.
Like the credibility, the credibility was sketchy in the first place. And now you got Mickey Rourke to do it.
Load it up. I'm not sure. Well, you know what they did? I think with Jeremy and then Mickey Rourke, you make Bob Lazar seem extremely credible next to those two.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't know. The guy's making sense to me.
So maybe that's the ticket.
Yeah, I actually had to watch. I about a year ago. I guess it's been out probably a little over a year. I started to watch it, and I actually couldn't. I was like, I can't watch this. This is too tough. It's too polished and too like. And then I saw Jeremy Corbell on an interview or something like that, and he was saying, "Oh, I made it real polished on purpose so that it wouldn't be like the old documentaries you're used to, or are just really very vanilla." And I thought, well, okay, I'll try it. So I did actually finish it the second time I watched it. And it was pretty good. I completely have an open mind on that stuff. I don't know. I will say this: no matter what, even if none of this UFO stuff turns out to be true, and it's 100% to what the skeptics are saying, even if that's the case, it's still super interesting because how did all these people misread something?
100%. No, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I wouldn't call myself necessarily a believer, but like I'm fascinated with all of it.
It's just entertaining, I think.
It's really entertaining.
I will say, I think Gary can attest to this too, because he lives in a similar and I think you grew up in Arizona, right, Gary?
I did.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Antelope Valley, and it's like both of these places are really popular for Boeing, for Lockheed, for NASA, because it's just a bunch of empty desert, which is great for landing airplanes and doing flight tests and stuff, right?
Well, it's also great for guys out in the desert, out in the woods, sniffing glue and seeing things and coming back with crazy stories. So
100%.
Yeah.
And there's enough lack of entertainment for like young people that it's like they're gonna find weird ways to entertain themselves, including seeing aliens. So like there's a part of me that's a skeptic because I literally saw I grew up and I saw I remember the SR-71 flying over us before anybody knew what that was. I remember the triangular, what is it? The stealth.
The B-2.
That plane looked like a freaking UFO. It had three lights on it in a triangular shape, and it would just fly over our valley all the time. And what was funny was there was like a contest for people to all across the US to draw what they thought the new stealth would look like. Everyone in the Antelope Valley submitted drawings that just looked exactly like the stealth because they'd all seen it, So coming from the standpoint of somebody who's I've seen unidentified flying objects that nobody knew what they were, and then they just ended up being these really superior forms of technology that just hadn't been announced. So that's the skeptic part of me. The non-skeptic part of me is I think I like it and want it to be true because I miss the era when conspiracy theories were fun.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. I love when it comes to conspiracy theories, I really delight in alien stuff, Bigfoot stuff, weird secret societies, all that's kind of fun. But as soon as it gets kind of metastasized into the current variety, all the QAnon stuff, and I don't know, I kind of tap out right around fluoride in the water being a communist plot and the JFK thing. That's about, and everything after that, it's I can't deal with this.
So they lost you at gay frogs is basically what you're saying.
They did. They lost me at gay frogs. I can deal with there's they replaced Paul McCartney. That's a fun one. And and Elvis is still alive somewhere. Okay, all right, yeah.
That's not a conspiracy. That's 100%
100% true.
I mean, I would be so happy about that. And the thing that would make me happy about an alive Elvis is if he had continued that awesome jamming from the late 70s in the ghetto and era of Elvis. And you just have this whole just deep cut backlog of these great, terrible Elvis song tracks.
No, he would have progressed from karate to MMA.
Oh, while I have all of you here, I love that. While I have all of you here, I just want to know, okay, so how does the audio sound? Do I sound super loud? Do I need to move the mic further away? It's a new mic, so
you sound really, really pretentious.
Oh, okay, well that's pretty normal. So nothing's changed. That's good.
but you sound clear.
That's good.
It's clear pretentiosity.
To be clear, I definitely, yeah, that's good. Tamales completed.
What is a tamale?
Oh.
What is?
No, he's spelling that Inglourious Bastards. They
okay, got it. Yeah,
he's marketing it.
Nice.
Or either that, or a guy named Tom sold them to him. So.
I absolutely love that.
Tom Molly's.
That's enough reason to start a tamale place if you're named Tom. If you're looking for your $1 million idea.
Yeah. What you need is to marry somebody named Allie, and then you could be we're Tom and Allie, and we make 10 Alleys.
Tom Ailes completed. All right.
I love it. So Gary is working on your script. I was going to ask Corey what he's working on, but apparently it was tamales.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I love the energy of a creative crew. So I want to throw out an idea that I was reading recently and get your guys' thoughts on it. There's this weird Aristotelian idea of a closed system. And this has just been something I've been thinking about lately of a closed system kind of being something that can bring happiness to people. Whereas other forms of work that aren't closed systems within themselves can't. And I guess the idea being if you think of a kid, right, when they're playing, a kid doesn't tend to pick a game to play with any objective other than the play itself. And then that's the reward of playing the game is just if I look at my son, he's 7, he plays a game. That's why he just plays it to play the game. The game's the reward of the activity. and that brings them a lot of happiness. So anyhow, I've been thinking about this in regards to art. Like, do you guys think that's true, or just like some weird, crazy thing? Like, where it's basically like a hackneyed version of art for art's sake. Like, do you think that for yourselves, like, do you find more fulfillment? Because we're all personal creators and stuff. Like, why do you create your own art that may not necessarily be as like lucrative as like if you sold out and took a bunch of money from the man? I don't know. So just a topic idea. We can change it to something else if you guys want.
I think if I want to couch this before I think my gut response is, I think if you're doing it right, yes, the part you're enjoying the most is the actual doing of it. But the qualification I would make is I'm becoming increasingly mindful of the fact that, my whole comic thing, I'm approaching it from a different place than a lot of other creators I know who are trying to make it their living. Like, I have a day job, and it would be great if I could transition to like full-time creative work. That's not really the goal. Like, this is just sort of my passion, my after hours passion project. And so I have the luxury, I guess, of saying like, no, I just want to do stuff that makes me happy. And I don't have to face those dilemmas that a lot of other creators do. Like, do I want to do fan art, or do I want to like make something that's marketable? Or is this the thing that's going to get me in a comic store? Is this the thing that the publisher is going to buy? Like, I can just sit and say like, I'm just going to make comics that are fun for me, that I would want to read. And if 12 people read them, that's cool. And if 1 million people read them, that's cool too. But like, it's about like, I'm enjoying this part,
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think, I don't personally think there's anything wrong with like, like, cause I do art for like clients and stuff. And like, that's what I do for a living. So it's like, I get that part of it. And like, to an extent, just doing stuff for clients. But I feel like as a creator, I'm like way more content when I'm working on stuff where I actually get to call all the shots and just sort of aim to make something really good. And I'm learning to enjoy the process of it more than just the result. I think I'm learning that, but I might forget and just get really frustrated and hate the process again and just only like the result. I don't know. That's why I was curious what your guys' thoughts were.
This is my last thought on it. I was actually talking to my therapist about something similar. And because I've been saying that I've been dragging my feet submitting for publication. And he's kind of trying to figure out like what, and that's the whole thing. And I'm not going to go through my therapy notes with all of you guys, but when I told him, I was like, look, I guess I'm not being very goal oriented like that. When like the comic thing for me is a little bit like a guy in his basement working on a model railroad. And like once in a while, you might invite people down to check out your model railroad. But like the joy is like, I built this cool little gas station here. And like, oh, now I'm adding this. And now, you know what? We're going to do a bridge. Like, I'm just sitting there and making things and enjoying the making of the thing. And it's like, it's hard for me to get out of that mindset and start thinking about like, okay, well, maybe how could I get more readers? It's why I'm terrible at promotion. But
yeah, I relate to that a lot.
That's
I don't know,
great,
like
Gary. I'm jealous. I mean, I wish I could be like that. My thing is, I think of an idea that I want to do, and I want to do it, but then actually doing it is not that enjoyable for me.
Yeah,
but I am hard-headed enough that I do it, because I don't want to regret not doing it.
Yeah.
So I go for it. And then, but I don't enjoy it too much. I was just telling my wife, I think I enjoy like drawing caricatures, nice caricatures that take about an hour. I find it relaxing and I really enjoy it, and it doesn't take too long. But like this comic stuff or animation, it just takes forever for it to be done. By the time I'm into it, the idea is no longer even entertaining. Now it's just a chore. So that's where I'm at. I'm a very unhappy person.
I don't know. I think there's something about the creative process that, like, I'm not going to lie. I mean, even though that's the goal for me, there are stretches of especially when you're drawing, week after week after week. you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
Like there are parts where you're like, what was the old Peace Corps slogan? The toughest job you'll ever love. Like I wouldn't give it up, but I wouldn't say
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm enjoying
Yeah.
doing it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
It's work. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. For me, I feel like I'm kind of in between where I feel like when I'm in my right space with it, I am enjoying the process. But I do find myself most of the time hating it and then just liking the result, and like,
Yeah, I like the
so
result, yeah.
so it's like it's that kind of thing. But to me, I will say it's like I guess what I'm getting at is like I thought the Aristotle thing was interesting because I don't know a ton about philosophy at all. It's like I actually need to brush up on it. Ironically, like our friend Jake here has like a pretty much more extensive knowledge of philosophy and stuff, which is cool. For me, it's like something I feel like I have to brush up on every once in a while because I forget stuff. But like that was really weird to me, where it was like, back in the day, like they were saying, like this is like the ideal that will bring people happiness is like doing these self-closed things where like the result, like your reward for doing it is the thing itself. And but what I was realizing, like just reading that was like just thinking about myself, I think I need to get better at like finding a little bit more enjoyment in the process. Because of the fact that like I do know at the end of the day I'm going to be happier with it than anything else that I do most of the time. So I feel like it's like in between. I don't know, Corey, like what about you? Do you enjoy the process? Do you hate the process? Why do you do art for art's sake kind of thing?
I like it when I'm not working for other people.
Yeah, that's
fun. Yeah, I just read a book, Big Magic. And it kind of opened my eyes to some of the toxic lies I'd been telling myself. I think that used to be true that I've kind of grown out of. Because I used to self-medicate with art. Like it was like my way to like deal with crap and do stuff, because there is some significant benefit to, making things. But now I actually do enjoy it, and I enjoy the process. I enjoy the progress. I think I enjoy like seeing stuff through.
Yeah.
I think it puts you kind of in and this is maybe a little bit elitist, but it puts you in a very elite group of people who start and finish things. Jim and I have talked about this a lot. Like,
wait a second. Are you saying our whole group of people today, this whole panel of people is are elite? That's awesome.
No. Just Corey and I.
Just to be clear, just the middle column. No, it's I think anybody who gets really good at something and then finishes stuff.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people who get really good at stuff. There's a lot of people who finish stuff. There are very few people who get really good at stuff and finish stuff.
Yeah, that's a tough.
And so you see like I see a lot of people talking about their projects. I see a lot of people, working on their projects. I see a significantly smaller amount of that group actually like delivering consistently, like done things.
Yeah, that is true. It's like
I'm saying that as I'm spending like eternity finishing this project I've been working on, but I'm hoping to finish it at some point in time. But I mean, Josh, you spent like 5 years on a project.
Yeah.
And like finish it. It's wrapped. It's printed. It's published.
That is a great book, Josh. I just got to say.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate anyone who read that book. So.
I got it.
Hey, Josh,
I appreciate people who haven't too.
Was any of by the way, I second what Corey just said.
About the elite being in the middle.
Yes.
On this panel.
Yes, I wasn't
agree with that. You guys are pretty elite.
We're pretty elite, but was any
percentage of Jim's brain?
Was any of two stories left when it was quarterly stories? Was a lot of it left out of the book? From what you were doing over the last 5 years, did you have to edit any of it out, or lose any of the pages or anything like that? Or is it 100% all in the book?
So like that's the nice thing. Like I said, there's a lot of edits. So if you were to look at like the scripts, because prior to that, like when I would work on comics, like I didn't actually script out what I was working on. I just kind of improvised it, and I had like a plot arc, like a story arc. So I knew like beginning and middle and end, and like where I needed to go. But I didn't have like when I did Jacob's Apartment, which was like my first graphic novel. I feel like I've erred in the fact that I didn't like pre-script everything out. I kind of wrote it as I went. And for some people that works really well. I just learned the hard way. Like that's not the way I work best. And so with this, I went through iterations of scripts. So there's definitely things like even in the second volume that I'm working on, there were entire character arcs that I had to pull out. There were some stories that I wanted to tell because it's autobio. And the tough thing with autobio is you start wanting to tell everything. Like you're like, oh, well, there's this other cool story. And like, hey, the other day I went to the gas station and this funny thing happened. Like you want to start telling everything. And it's like, obviously you can't do that if you want to do it in your own lifetime. So it's like,
right. I'm thinking, because you published online for so long.
Yeah.
Is it all there in the book?
Yep.
All of those panels? You didn't have to leave out pages and pages?
Yeah. So there's one little piece of content that might come out later, which was I used to do these filler strips that looked like Bazooka Joe comics.
Yeah.
And none of those are in this book. But I might possibly do a whole book like that spins off of it and tells just these little Sunday strip type more comedic things. Because that style is like super fun to work in.
Yeah.
So if you were following it, that would be the one thing that didn't appear in it was the little filler. But those were just filler at the time. They weren't,
So also to address your earlier question about why we're kind of creating and what end game we're kind of looking for.
Yeah.
I think when I was a boy, when I was a wee lad in Dublin, Ireland. When I was a kid, I remember making comic books, and when certain people would come over, I would run and show, hey, look what I did. Not everybody. Aunts and uncles would be like, no. But like cousins or certain friends or my brother's friends, any of my brother's friends that would come over, they were all older. I'd run and like, hey, check this out, and I'd want them to read it. I wasn't making it so they could read it. I was making them because I loved to make them. But once they were done, I wanted somebody that would really look at it. And I think that's kind of what we're all doing right now. Otherwise, we would do whatever the easiest path is for acceptance, something we don't believe in. We would just do something that's super popular all the time. So I think we're all chasing the dragon of that feeling that you get from whenever you get good response of something. We're all kind of like secretly seeking that out.
I'm going to translate for Jim there and say that if Jim didn't have that experience as a child, he would currently be drawing furry porn.
Yeah.
That's what he would be doing right now.
More than I do now.
More than
Right. Yeah.
It would be the priority.
Yes. Or starring in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Or starring and acting in it.
So Jim, do you think that's your primary driver for doing it? Like, because you've done like, creator-owned, like self-authored, self-animated, like all one-man animations for years. And it's like, I think you started doing animation before I had even done my first like series comic. And it's like, so you've been at it for a while. Like, do you think that's kind of the primary driver? Like the idea of like sort of almost like showing it to the siblings or the friends.
Sorta, yeah. That's a. You know what? I guess if you break it up into thirds, that's the last third of it.
Okay.
The opening third would be the inspiration, the motivation. Like I really want to tell a story about XYZ, whatever. The furries. The middle part is the work that you put into it, the hard work, and that's that's the toughest one. And then the third one is the one I probably need to pay more attention to, is getting it out there in front of people's eyes and stuff like that, like pushing your work. Because I totally am guilty of. Once I create something, I put it out there like, here it is, and then it has a little sparkles for a little bit, but it goes away really quick. I move on to the next thing because I'm not constantly pushing the stuff that I've done.
Yeah,
but that's because I'm, like you mentioned, I'm a one-man thing, so I only have so much energy. I can't heal all the lepers.
I have that I have that struggle too about lepers. It's just too many to heal.
I said leopards, like the cats.
I love it. So by the way, there's a nice cat sanctuary out here in the Antelope Valley. If you're ever bored, you can go there. There've been a bunch of murders there. Not murders, but like murdered people because the cats, it's like a bunch of panthers in a really small.
I've been there.
enclosure.
Is it? It's Ted Nugent's Cat Scratch Sanctuary.
Yes.
And you can hunt them too, so that's really kind of cool.
Oh my goodness. That actually, Ted Nugent.
Here we go.
Feels like a Jim Lujan character.
Here we go. Let's talk about
He does. He does. He could be.
I feel like he becomes more of a Jim Lujan cartoon.
All right, I'm going to ask you guys because this is easy. This would be easy for you guys to do this with me, but I've never asked you guys this. And I guess we'll start with Josh. Maybe we can go across the way. If you had to look through somebody else's eyes and do a cliche version of your work, what do you think they would say it's about?
Okay, so with me, I mean, it's pretty easy with autobio, like to riff on autobio. So for me, it would probably be like, somebody just walking around a city being really depressed in snow. and they'd be like, like a lot of captions where it's kind of making like ancillary, like unconnected, like literary references and stuff thrown in.
I love that, man.
So that's that's what I would do if I were making fun of myself.
So it's like a Josh impersonator would do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Josh cover band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do feel like autobio is like really easy to riff on. At like, I love Craig Thompson's work, but I know a lot of cartoonists who've done like parody Craig Thompson comics where it's just basically like a short masturbation story. It's like, because that's like in Blankets, it's like like part of why it's such a good book is it's like really confessional and honest about that. But that particular activity is like a section in it, and it's told in this heartfelt thing, but it's like whenever you're that vulnerable on a page, you're like, you're definitely ripe for parody, Yeah. What about you, Corey? What would people do if they were like riffing on? I'm gonna keep Jim's topic going because I like that.
Yeah, because Corey's would be just all the stuff I make fun of him for. But
I was gonna say that. I just quote Jim.
Oh, Corey, before you get into that too, I want to know what you're working on. Is this for the animation, the music video?
Yeah.
This is the sketches look really nice.
This is the singer, and I Googled last night for much longer than I thought it would take to that. This is the first time I've done this Google search, stylish older woman. And because
it seems like a risky search. Already I feel like you're telling me.
It actually if you do it on Pinterest, it's just loose fitting blouses, which is nice. So do it on Google image search, I think it's different. But
hey, Corey, before it goes away, I just wanted to point out that I have this really cool from the film Moonlight lighting on me right now. I don't know how it's happening. I think it's your screen.
That is really cool. I think what we need to do is like mist it a little bit, and then you've got like an 80s film. If we could just make it like slightly more neon, like a little bit of a neon glow, it could be like a.
You need to contact the people at Streamlard. So I'm sorry, Corey. Go ahead.
So I think if Jim were to do a Corey Kerr parody, it would be like a crazy homeless man, wandering around picketing Google with a robot arm and a giant sign, and he's got a PhD tucked in his back pocket.
And he's a time traveler.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I love it.
I don't know. I imagine it would be some sort of uninteresting rant about how technology is going to end humanity.
Oh, I love it. Jake, you're up. I don't know if are you there, Jake?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. So you're up. So if somebody were to riff on your work, like they were just to completely be poking hardcore fun at your work, what would their stuff look like?
I don't know. Do I even have enough work out there to be riffed on?
Yeah, well, you're starting, but okay. So of the short, the ones you put out, what do you think?
There would be like constantly writing in monologues, I think, because I like the published stuff that I've done so far. It's mostly just written in the in monologue in first person and all that. So
nice. I tend
it's
to
like really fucking pretentious. So and I'm capital F pretentious. Okay, don't get me wrong. If you go back to like a couple of streams, you can see me doing being at work with some robot, and I think that I got like a couple of lines in there, and it's just terrible. But yeah,
my first comic, I went back and rewrote it. I haven't redrawn it, but I just eliminated like 12 pages full of just exposition. It's just like, wow, this is just me monologuing about world building for like a full issue here.
You sly dog, you caught me monologuing.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, Gary, if somebody was gonna riff on your work, they were gonna do the parody, the Mad Magazine version. That's
the Mad Magazine version.
Yeah.
I think I kind of like something that Jake said. I think they would go after maybe the pretentiousness. So I think it would probably be it'd be like a 50-page comic where 45 pages are like a guy talking about how he's wondering why he didn't cry at his mom's funeral, and then the last 5 pages like a Tyrannosaur would parachute in like a parachute.
I love that. That's so good. For Corey, it would be Bugs and Anti-Tech. That's dead on.
That would be
Frank. Saturn versus Dragons. I can see that. A detective called Lazy Larry. I like that. Okay, this is great. Jim, what do you
they've already done
We're
it.
gonna do Paul.
It's called. Mine would be. It's already out there. It's called Tiger King.
That's so true. I think when that came out, Jim, I was telling you, I was like, dude, Jim, this is like if they made your cartoon your cartoon somehow touched like the gods or something, and like somehow some sort of distortion in like the second iteration of our universe like created some field where your cartoon actually became a living human being.
Like life imitates Jim's art. So
that would be hilarious if that's the uncut part, like that they didn't have. It was that he was inspired by Jim Lujan cartoon.
I kind of feel like I should get royalties from it.
I think so.
Tiger King, but how about you, Paul? What's
man, you guys I've been racking my brain listening to you guys, and all of them are hilarious, and I just can't think of anything. The only thing I can think of is just like sort of making fun of my Midwest sensibilities, like I'm picturing some like the character that Randy Quaid played in Christmas or in Vacation.
Eddie?
Like cousin Eddie was. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Like, me trying to be like some cool, like hip hop dude, but I'm just like, Randy Quaid. I don't know.
Also, Paul's would be.
Jim, you come up with something for me.
It would be
funny.
Like his second project after doing like a 7-minute or 5-minute cartoon would be, Jim, I'm doing this 14-hour cartoon with
Right.
11,000 shots in it.
Right.
Like he bites off a lot, but that also got him an award on his first venture out. So he he does swing for the fences. That's for sure.
That's right here. Thank you very much.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And furries.
Furry.
Yeah, but it's like groupie furries.
You know what's ironic is Jim has not told everybody yet that that's what Pleasure Beast is actually about.
It's just that's true. Like
It's a code. It's
the
a code word.
pastor, the little snippet of the pastor dialogue that I showed you guys at the beginning of this. That's before Jim edits it to be like a literal. Yeah.
I wonder how this.
You're gonna see Josh's voice coming out of the mouth hole of like a giant stuffed fox head.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be like, Jim, you didn't tell me my character had a tail. You're like, yeah, just get into it, dude.
I was wearing ears.
And I think I wonder what the search clout is going to be on Pleasure Beast once it's out. That'll.
Oh man,
The
I have a
curiosity
feeling.
factor.
I'm curious if it's gonna like either have search cloud or just instantly get pulled down from like a blind algorithm that's just like nope, not gonna do that.
Dude, Jim, I've got your marketing campaign for you. Just go in the deep recesses of Reddit and just drop a title and a link, and then don't say anything about it.
That's a very good idea, and I think I'll do that. Absolutely, and watch all the disappointment. Watch all the disappointment.
All right, guys. Well, so this is the hour mark, over the hour mark, and usually anybody who's familiar with these streams, at the hour mark, I take a very quick, like 20-second break. If you guys want to keep the dialogue going, whatever, go for it.
I'm gonna get my iPad. I think it's charged now.
The only dialogue I want to talk about right now is why I'm punishing myself by having a knitted scarf.
Ooh, that's a good dialogue. All right. Well, you guys talk about knitted scarves, and I will be
switch some laundry over.
Awesome.
So
I got a question for Jake.
I love it. Okay, keep going, guys.
Jake, I'm
Yeah.
on Clip Studio, and I wanna do a lasso around this guy's head.
Okay.
I don't know where the lasso is.
You got the toolbar right up there, right?
Yeah.
Do you see the square underneath the other square that's got like the mouse? There should be like a outline of a square there in like the toolbar.
Okay.
So you click on that, and then it should be like a curtain for you rolling down, and then it should say like on the third one it should say lasso as a tool option.
Oh, I see. Maybe it's up here then. Hold on. Lasso. There it is. You're the man. You got me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's incredible that you were able to find something based off of it's next to the square by the other square.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's impressive.
Corey, I want to give you the most creepy compliment you're ever going to get in your life. But there's
I've gotten quite
been
a few, so
it's been many a night I've fallen asleep with your soft voice in my ear.
Yeah.
You're listening to the mixtape that I sent you.
Yeah. So a lot of times I'll go to sleep and I got like one earbud going, and I'll really lightly play like the after party, the IRS after party, or or like when you guys the Night Gang. A lot of times I'll play that a lot. So it's like you're subconsciously influencing me during my sleep.
Okay. The next time I'm live, I'm going to start implanting subconscious messages into your dreams.
It's gonna be like, Jim, bring your bank accounts number.
No, it'll be like Jim, do all the lip sync for Corey's animation.
You've already got the 85% of my brain. What more do you want?
Yeah.
Jim, volunteer to finish my animation.
All right,
I'm gonna.
the animator wants to not.
Josh,
have to do
Here's another shot of your cool pastor, since that's the theme of the night.
So I have to admit to really, really being stoked to be a part of a Jim Lujan cartoon. I know, Paul, you've been a part of it. Corey, you've had that happen.
Not as a voice.
It is pretty cool.
I've never been part of it. Though I have a shot at being a part of this one. I have a shot at it, but it's
So
just
here-
I sort of wrote a couple of lines for Jim, I think. is
So
all it was.
I really want your sincere advice on this. Really.
Okay.
And
I refuse
Two
to
of
be
you are
sincere.
totally impartial, meaning Gary and Jake. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
And real quick, Jake, what time is it where you're at? I just want to reiterate
Where
the
is
crazy
Jake
time
at?
difference in countries.
It is 7:38 a.m.
Jeez. That's awesome. Okay.
Wow,
Anyway,
where are you
ready
at,
to
Jake?
start the day.
I'm in Norway.
yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Oh,
Awesome.
Basically, like every other stream we'll talk, and from what I gathered from Norway, we're all pretty screwed on healthcare, and he gets awesome healthcare for free, which is
Stop that. Don't perpetuate lies. Don't perpetuate what you listen to in Sicko. Sicko is not a real documentary, okay?
Oh yeah, well, I agree with that. Actually, it's not. But yeah. So Jim, what's the advice you're looking for? You're asking a lot of very unsincere people for sincerity, dude.
that's okay. So back in the day, when I was doing all the voices for my stuff, like all the voices, and that carried on for years. And then probably 10 years ago, I started like cherry picking, like, oh, I want this person to do a voice for me, or this person, a couple here and there. Now it's one of my great joys in life to seek out like certain friends and family and associates to do voices. Like that motivates me. But now it's become so like such a thing now that if I have 10 people do a voice for a project, it's like I feel guilty on the next one if I don't call, the 10 people. And now, like with Pleasure Beast, I've started like, oh, I'll make a role for this guy, and I'll make a role for this guy, and then I end up being like, I don't even need this scene. Like, it's like they're gonna get cut.
Yeah.
This is all me building up to telling Josh that he's completely cut out of the movie.
That's totally
but yeah. So
That's
I mean,
a rough breakup, dude.
yeah.
Well, it was nice while it lasted. I wish the casting couch had been a little more friendly, Jim.
I don't think you do.
Hell yeah.
That's what you get with IKEA is all that you get. Okay. But so I think the equivalent in illustration and comics, in storytelling, the equivalent is when you start adding Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Then you start getting obsessed with putting Easter eggs, and the Easter eggs start dictating your story almost. Like, oh, I need to have this scene because I want this Easter egg, and you didn't necessarily need that shot or that scene.
Yeah, I have the opposite problem, like the exact opposite problem.
Really?
Because like if I write somebody into my book, like it's a confessional autobiography. So a lot of the times it's the opposite conversation where they're like, do you need to include me in that? Like that kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. And I have to get people, luckily everyone I've written about has been on board with it. But it's been difficult to actually make sure everybody's on board with it because I'm talking about some really uncomfortable stuff. And like, to be honest, like if one of you wrote like an auto bio that spoke really candidly about me, I'd probably be weirded out by it too. It's a strange thing. So I have like the opposite problem where I think a lot of people are like, oh, he wrote a book and I'm not in it. Thank God.
So Salazar Art Nation says, I also have never been part of a Jim Lujan animation, but Jim blocked me on Facebook for some reason.
What?
But that's part of it's a life art project, Salazar. You're part of it.
That's true.
Blocking. But no, I'm at that point right now where I have to be mindful of the finished product, because it's there's no excuses once you put something out. The audience, either it works or it doesn't. You can't say, well, no. I know this scene doesn't work, but here's why I put it in here, because so I got to be really kind of ruthless when it comes to that. And I'm right now at that stage, like Nick, I'm really making edits, and I do it to myself all the time. There's stuff shots that I'm like, oh, that took me a long time. We talk about this, Paul. Oh, this took me so long to animate this shot, or this is so cool. This is one of my best animated, and it doesn't fit in the film. You just got to cut it.
Dude, 100% agree with that. Because like, while I don't do a lot of cutting in the later end, like on the script, there are whole scenes that just had great, like I felt like just great dialogue, some of my best writing that I just had to pull. because it wasn't servicing the plot, right? And like at the end of the day, if you're just like writing junk, like in filler, like if I were just going to serialize like 2 stories forever, then maybe I could leave that stuff in. But it's like, you have to, like, to me, I think as a writer or like an editor or whatever, you have to think about plot threads, and especially in comedy, like comedy is like, has to be tight. You have to have a reason for everything that's in there. And hopefully you're getting laughs like throughout the entire thing. Too much ancillary, just kind of absurdity thrown in there without intention can really like derail any project. And like, so anyhow, I agree with that method, because I personally, like, the way I approach my art is like, when it's my own stuff, it's like I don't want anything to not service the story, like whether it's the approach that I'm rendering it or like whatever it is, like everything in there should hopefully highlight and service the story. I think I don't know, like
well, Corey mentioned something earlier. Corey, I never knew this. You said that you create in like an abundance of stuff and have to chop it down. I always thought you were really efficient.
I fooled you. No, I almost everything I've made has been like, I've got this little germ of an idea, and then when I flesh it out, I'm like, oh, this is like a 400-page graphic novel that I'm going to try to fit into this anthology where they asked me to do 4 pages.
Yeah.
Or I start doing something like, oh, it'd be cool to do like Endo Exo is like that. Where I was like, oh, it'd be cool to do this little story. And then I had this idea, and now it's like this 12 episode thing that I haven't worked on it forever because I've been doing client work. But yeah, I do cut though. I do cut quite a bit. Usually I cut once I realize other people aren't going to care about the world that I built as much as I am. And so then I just go, all right, what are the interesting parts about this? Like, what are the, because I'm in there and I'm like, I've decided like how the economy works in this like new dystopian future, and like, what, all this type of stuff. And then I'm like, oh, well, that has nothing to do with the story. And so you can drop like a line. I call those Clone Wars lines where like George Lucas is just like, well, that was back in the Clone Wars. And like, he had no idea what he was talking about when he wrote that line, but it left a little hook in there that he could, make 3 horrible movies about and 2 really good cartoon series on.
Yeah. So, Jake, I feel like I heard you saying like, oh, when we were talking or something, like, was there something that resonates with you about the what we were just saying about
as
filler?
We were like talking about Easter eggs and references, I accidentally made that damn Among Us meme thing in the A as I was lettering, and I'm like, oh, it gets me. But I can understand it. I've been thinking about like adding a couple like small like things, like the co-hosts of of one of my new favorite podcasts, and like a Berserk reference, like a memorial piece and all that stuff with the new work that I'm doing. But it all in like to a lesser degree than like not being too referential or being like on the nose. Yeah, and nobody will give a shit except for you and your readers if they're like really into your work or know you.
Yeah, I think like we were talking about this, and please, Corey, don't show any Jamie Hewlett stuff because then we're gonna get pulled again. But we were talking about so we were talking about Jamie Hewlett and how he throws in like all these cool like references of like specific guitars, and like he's really conscious of like fashion, and like he does a lot. Like I remember one of my favorite things about picking up issues of Tank Girl back in the day was like he'd have like, record shout outs and like just all these different like deep cut shout outs like in the backgrounds of like every panel. And I think that can make for a really cool environment as long as it doesn't pull away from the story, But if it starts feeling like a like an insert like in Back to the Future, where it's like, oh, I just want a Pepsi, like that kind of thing. And then it like pans in on the Pepsi, like, that's where it kind of pulls away a little bit from the story. And you're like, couldn't you just not like have had like a Pepsi product placement in that scene, although honestly, I didn't mind that particular product placement, but
I think Wayne's World did the product placement best.
oh man, I need to
Spaceballs
rewatch
for the
that. Like,
best.
does that hold up? I haven't seen
I
that
have no idea.
film in a long time. I'm curious.
Did it hold up when it was on the air originally?
I think that's half the fun of it, but
Right,
I'm
that's what
curious.
saying. I think it would hold up just because it was awful then, and it'll be
Yeah.
awful now, and that's what it was intended to be awful.
Yeah,
That's how they made it.
Gotta see if it's good awful or bad awful. That's such a like fine line. Let's see. I have some experience with doing the same experience doing Captain Goggles comics. I was just going to be one-off comic about a joke, and it turned into a bigger universe. But that's mostly due to my co-host making wacky suggestions. Nice. Oh, and then Frank was saying my graphic novel Josh and Me might not be received well by Josh. Hey, here's the thing. Like I was saying about servicing the story. I really do strongly believe that like artists should write what they need to write. And so like I would, if somebody wrote a comic about me that wasn't like flattering, I would defend their right to do it. Cause I really, especially in the auto-buy realm, like I think it's just great. Like part of why I like Robert Crumb's comics is that like from those comics, I wouldn't want to hang out with Robert Crumb. You know what I mean? Like he talks so confessionally about himself. Like, and Harvey Pekar is a good example too. It's like, you get the sense of this guy who has like major anger management issues and like some very like severe, struggles, but it's like, he's so candid about it. I would hate to tell him like, don't write about that stuff because I'd just get bored with his comics then.
I just really hope Josh and Me is like Mac and Me.
Yeah.
Well,
Josh is an alien that's drinking Coke out of the craters of the moon.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Mac and Me is I sat through that and I have to admit like it was actually pretty darn entertaining. If you guys want just like an example of like what happens when a good concept is like put in a creative boardroom with a bunch of people who are like, yeah, that's cool. Let's mix that with this.
My favorite one is
what happens when the pitch is, what if it's E.T. but with Coke?
Yeah.
Did you guys see the one that
which one?
That Subway put out, Jared and Me? It's really edgy.
It was good at the
That is
beginning.
bold.
There's a twist at the end.
It gets dark.
Oh man! Next time you guys see me drawing something knitted, tell me that I shouldn't. Just
knitted? Oh,
knitted.
Corey.
I've or crocheted. I don't know what the difference is.
Crochet.
This my character. This character right here is actually a guy who's got. I don't know if you can see him, but he's got from like say their names on black people that have been killed by police. He's got them tattooed all over his body.
Oh man.
So yeah, and I was like, that's a bad idea for drawing this character. Luckily, I only have to draw him like 3 or 4 times. But
that's like the third most complained about thing with comic book artists. There's horses, cars, and then characters with tattoos.
Oh really?
I heard that. This sounds like a name drop, but it's true. I heard that from Bill Plimpton because of what I did.
Right.
Oh really?
Yes. It's an actual truth.
Yeah, it's a little bit different when you animate like Plimpton and you're literally drawing everything.
Yeah, he was like, why did you ever have these characters have tattoos all over them?
But what's great is like with things like that, or even like doing the texture of like knitting and stuff. It's like that's sort of the part that like I can never fully enjoy. Like I need to get better at enjoying that part of the process. But like you do an extra thing like that, and I do think that takes your work to a different level because there's gonna be someone who looks at it and goes, "Oh wow, you did knitted? Okay." I don't know. I always think like one of my
that's gonna happen.
Well, yeah. Gary, I noticed you picked up Jimmy Corrigan, which I'm excited about.
I did.
Very excited about that.
And
How
a
bored are you?
large a large lens magnifying glass, which my understanding is like probably should come with it, but
yeah, it's a little hard to read.
it's a little tough. No, I was just flipping through it today, and I could not. I was like, I'm glad I have this magnifying glass because this is crazy. But I'm excited.
Yeah. So in that, there's a panel that I always think of when I think about like the pain of drawing something like that. You're like, why do it this way? So it's like it's this perfect drawing of like a tall building. It's two tall panels next to each other, and there's like Superman on top of the building, and then the next one is Superman at the bottom, just splatted on the ground like he was gonna jump off the building, and then a bunch of like ambulances at the bottom of the building, but it's the exact same frame. And I remember when I was reading that, I looked at the building; it looks almost exactly the same. So I'm like, oh, okay, so he just like copied it over or whatever. And then you start noticing, because he uses a ruling pen with a lot of his lines, so they almost look like Illustrator lines, but they're a ruling pen. And I noticed like the spot where the two tines on the ruling pen comes out, like it's like he almost intentionally did them a little sloppy at a few of the ends on both panels, so you could see like he just redrafted like and worked out that entire building and drew it again just because there's some kid like me who's going to look at that and be like, wait, you redrew the whole thing, you jerk. Like,
do you know how large he worked? When I was flipping through it, that was the first question that came to my mind was like, how big is he working?
Because so he works on 10 feet by 20 feet pages.
They are remarkably large pages, though. He actually works bigger than I do. I work at 24 by something. He works like he actually works. The size you can buy like a bristle sheet, like the sheet itself. That's about the size he does.
Well, I mean that makes sense, and it also it would conceal a lot of the subtle variations to make it seem more like kind of machined and perfect. Like if you're big and you're ending up this big.
Are you familiar with drywall sheets? That's the size.
But the thing that's crazy about it is I've seen Ware's pages because there was like a show called Masters of American Comics that showed a bunch of like original Ware pages, Eisner pages. Like he was like kind of the last in the line of all these like Legends pages and stuff. And the annoying thing is there's not they're almost perfect at
Do they
full
look
size.
that good? Like
And it's I think there's a reason people pay like 50 or 60 grand for like one Chris Ware page, because it's just like anyhow. Okay. We Jim, change the topic, because I'm like getting all Aspie autistic on Chris Ware, and I'll just keep going all day.
I feel like you should have an episode where you and Corey, like a people's court with Chris Ware, where you come out like, dun, this is Josh. He says Chris Ware is an absolute genius and design master. Dun, dun.
The problem is Josh has a lot of really good reasons for liking Chris Ware, and mine is like, I haven't made it through one of his books because it's really boring. It's not a good argument.
But what's weird to me, so this is what mystifies me though, because you love Moby Dick. And I'm like, I've never been able to get through that book.
Yeah, I can really admit.
This goes back to my my bachelor days. Like, I love seafaring tales specifically because I brought a Joseph Conrad short stories book with me on this motorcycle trip I took. I was having like a quarter life crisis. I was about to quit my job. I hadn't been in a relationship in like a couple years. I was like 27, and I was looking down the barrel of like, I'm just gonna die alone. You know how you feel when you're like 27. I don't know.
Yeah,
anyway,
but like
everything.
Half 27 to think I'm gonna die alone.
Right, sure, but I mean, no, it's like I don't know. I feel like in your 20s, everything's really exaggerated.
Yeah, of course. Corey, I like that your quarter life crisis consisted of like, I'm gonna be like Jack Kerouac but without the drugs, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah,
like,
no, so
they're just like, I'm just gonna rough it and like live on the road.
I took off on my motorcycle, and I will list all the items I had with me. I had a .357 snub nose revolver. I had a bar of soap. I had a change of underwear, an extra T-shirt, a bedroll, and a sleeping bag.
You didn't bring extra socks? Oh man!
No, I wore it. No, this is gross, but I did wear the same socks for 2 weeks. But whenever I would come near a body of water, I had this biodegradable soap, and so I'd wash my socks and my extra shirt, and then I'd bathe and whatever. Anyway, so I'm basically living like a homeless person, actually hanging out with homeless people. Like I like, my favorite thing to do on that trip would be like, I had these dehydrated eggs, like just a ton of them in this little camp pack that I had. And so like I would just I'd go cook dehydrated eggs for homeless people at gas stations and just like hang out with them for a couple hours and just talk to them. Anyway, so I felt like just this lone man in the wilderness, type thing is, and I'm reading all these stories like Youth and Heart of Darkness and stuff like this, and so I really get into like see the lone like man versus the sea nature of things, where it's kind of like the same thing with space. Like if you're in space or you're in the ocean, you are constantly trying to be killed by nature. Like you're not supposed to be there. It's a foreign environment. And so for me, I love Moby Dick just because it's so much. It's this random weird intellectual guy. Like Ishmael is this odd intellectual amongst all these like sailors who are just out there, caricatures of like different types of the extreme of toxic masculinity, just trying to be killed by the ocean for thousands of pages. I don't know. There's something about it I really enjoy. And it is, it's long, and it's a style of writing that people can't put up with nowadays. I remember my dad reading it to my sister.
Oh, okay.
She had to read it for school. He reads this one chapter and she goes, "Dad, what was that chapter about? That was so long. I don't even understand anything he said." And my dad said, "That chapter is about the whale is white." Like, so like, anyway, yeah, no, I am a walking contradiction. So I understand. It's not that I don't get bored. It's just, there's something about, I haven't made it through yet. Where am I? I've got it here. I'm still reading it. So you can tell where I'm reading it because I have a toilet paper bookmark in there. But I am half an inch through this book, and I can't tell you what's happened yet. I think he had lunch with his dad.
Yeah, I think
like 70 pages.
I think I've told you, you just have to get to the once you get to the Chicago World Fair, that's where that book just cracks open, and you're just like, "Oh crap, this is brilliant."
I'm sure I will be amazed at some of the craft at some point, but so far the storytelling reminds me of Great Expectations.
Yeah,
I feel like I've just spent 3 hours reading like a spider walking around a wedding cake.
Yeah. Well, that's Melville style of writing. But anyhow, so I will say one thing I love about. I was joking about Moby Dick, but like actually one of the cool things about Moby Dick and depressing things about Moby Dick is the way that book actually became a classic. And the fact that it was like originally self-published and like nobody liked it, and then it was like the guy's sister, I think, like Melville's sister or something, that like was the reason it actually started getting taught in schools, and people were just like never. It's one of those classic stories of like the Van Gogh-ish kind of moment where it's like inspiring for artists, but also like, I don't want to be Melville. I'd rather be the guy who like has people actually read my stuff now. But it is a really inspiring story in the sense of like this book that could have been lost that people recognize later.
There's also letters that Melville wrote to his friends that are very relatable, where he's writing to his friends about, like, "I wish I had more time to work on the book about that whale. I just feel so busy and pulled with like my day job and everything."
Why is the book called Moby Dick?
Because the whale is called Moby Dick, and
why is the whale called Moby Dick?
They never explain where the name came from.
Yeah,
I think I've read it 4 times. And with that question in mind, I've never found an answer. There's no particular reason. Everybody seems to know that you're talking about this evil white whale when you mention Moby Dick, but like,
I just looked it up. Moby means to have barnacles on something.
Oh, really?
Put that together.
I get it now.
So Moby Dick was an indie book. Yeah, that's the cool thing about it. And then Frank was saying you call it toxic masculinity. I call it being a Salazar. I will say though, like I still think, Corey, it's interesting to me that I know a guy who like just randomly lived on the road on a motorcycle. Like I don't know. That's a pretty rad kind of cool tale. And being somebody who like I did go through my like beatnik phase where I think everybody should have this phase. Like if anyone out there like listening to this has not read like On the Road and went down that like beatnik train for like a little bit, especially when you're young, do it. It's so good.
Everybody should have the experience of being so terrified at night that you sleep underneath the ATM cameras so that at least your murder will be on camera.
Maybe they'll be able to try somebody down the road.
But I think it's cool you actually did it because, like I said, I went through this whole just like Kerouac moment where I talked with friends. We all read On the Road, and we were like, man, yeah, we should do that, and like just hit the road, just drive across America, and like stay in like encampments and just like make fires out in the middle of nowhere to keep warm. And it's like, no, like you actually did that. That is a unique kind of Walden Pondish radness is all I'm saying.
Sure.
Gary, you look like you want to say something.
My version of hardship is when I go to Panera and I can't find a booth with a plug. That's like,
where's my
to me,
Wi-Fi?
that's living. That's living
sort
on
of
the edge.
It's sort of the same.
It's kind of the same.
I would say like, yeah, life without Wi-Fi is completely comparable to living on the road.
Absolutely.
Hey, Jake, I got another question for you.
Shoot.
I want to select this zone here and this zone and this zone, but I only know how to do one at a time.
Okay.
Josh, can you zoom in on Paul? Because I want to see what he's doing.
Yeah, let's get. I think
This
I
is
can. Let me
educational.
see. Okay, Paul, I'm gonna make you big, and then Jake, maybe you can walk Paul through this. Okay.
So my toolbar is over here. I got my lasso here.
Okay.
So I want to, but I want to do. I don't want to do lasso. I want to do the magic wand here. So I'll select this zone.
Okay.
So I've got that zone selected.
Yeah.
Or field or whatever you call it. But I want to additionally select this zone. I don't want to deselect this zone. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's out of my expertise. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Wait,
I know how to do it in Photoshop.
yeah, this is Clip Studio, and I'm just learning how to do it. And
yeah, I'm not.
You know what I mean, though, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. But I think that I don't know, like
No, that's not it.
control and click on both of them.
Yeah, but it's on an iPad, so I don't have the keyboard. You know. Well, thanks anyway.
Yeah,
sounds like you got Jip Studio right there.
Yeah.
All right. So
Josh,
Frank,
I'm so impressed how you can just talk and draw. I can't.
I'm
do it.
trying. I get
can't
lost
do
in it.
Like I'm going so slow right now.
I wouldn't be able
you know,
to do it either.
Yeah, it's been one of those. I go very slow while doing it, but it also keeps me at it. And the weird thing is, I'm a pretty slow artist anyway. But for me, it just kind of feels like art school. So it's like, it reminds me of like being up late and like on campus at Cal State Long Beach, just like
Josh,
drawing away with people.
Are you familiar with Tom Hatton? Do you know who that is? On Channel 5, local LA?
No, I don't.
He used to have Popeye on Saturday mornings. He played Popeye and all these other cartoons, and he would draw. And he'd be at his drawing board. And he if you're in the LA area in the 80s and late 70s, anyways, he would draw and he would and he would talk and draw. And I tried that. There used to be this, what was it called? New Vein, this organization called New Vein in El Monte, California. And
Okay, was that related to Moby Dick?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's Blue Vein. But we won't go there. No, but they had their own TV station. And the guy that ran it, it actually was through Javier Hernandez, the connection that I know this guy. He
no way.
Yeah, he's like, you, because Javier was a member of that organization and blah, blah, blah. So he said, hey, you draw and stuff. Would you want to do your like a television show where you draw and your characters and then, play your videos? I'm like, absolutely, yes. So I did it, and we did a live broadcast once. I don't even know if it went out on the air because I only did it once. But I hated it. Oh, my God, I hated it. because it was just so uncomfortable to like, because I'm used to drawing. Like as a kid at grammar school, when I should have been doing my work, I would draw cartoons and my friends would all be gathered around me and I had no problem. I could do that. And, but I wasn't going, hey guys, did I ever tell you about the time? And,
Yeah.
it's a skill that's rough. Like even like now I'm talking and I'm not drawing. So.
Yeah,
I have a real hard time with it. I'm going so slow right now. It's almost not worth it.
Yeah. Well, it's like the other thing is like
I enjoy hanging out though. I really do. It's fun.
Yeah. The nice thing about doing the stream for me, like, is first off, like it took me a little bit to get used to it. This is like I think the 60th one or something, so it's like I'm a little more used to it. Second, I will be honest, like before I hit go live, I feel nervous for like about like 5 minutes, and I have to just. So I'll usually be like, oh, I'm going on in like a minute, and then it's usually about 5 minutes, and that's usually because I'm like slightly like, like what the hell am I going to talk about? Like, does anybody, what's been interesting about doing it this long is the fact that people show up is so cool. Cause like, I really just thought this would be something maybe like Corey and I would do, and cause Corey and I have done like the 48-hour art check and stuff like that. But like, the fact that like people have actually showed up and like are interested in it. And I think this gets more views than my vlogs. It's been really cool. But it's definitely like, it's been a fun experience because, but yeah, getting used to drawing and talking is interesting. What's fun though is like, I'm sure you guys might have seen like streams where like Corey and I will be like mid conversation and then we stop and go like, what do I do with the face here? We're doing like the talking to yourself thing. But I think it's cool.
Have you ever done like?
Oh yeah,
dang,
for sure. We had a funny stream that's on Corey's Instagram. Corey, tell him about that. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so Corey, like I think Jim, were you on that one?
For what?
Where Corey was just making like the weirdest face in the universe.
No, it was your art school teacher buddy.
Oh, okay. It was my buddy Rick Reese. So
yeah.
I think this was Artcasters, but yeah, like so my friend Rick Reese was on there and we're talking about stuff, and then we both just kind of stopped talking because Corey was just like making all these weird faces. We're like, what is going on over there? And then he was just explaining, he's like trying to get an expression to draw, which is funny because I remember that in art school too, where like, especially in grad school, it was weird because we had this, we had like we had studio space on campus, which was like this really cool experience because it's like, you'd have like, you're in the FA4 building on a college campus at Cal State Long Beach. That's the big art building. And it's like at the time, it was like a 4-story building and each story was like a different department, but the grad students all had studio spaces on their floor. So if you like went downstairs, you could see like people doing like life painting at like 3 a.m, like, and just fumes of like crazy, like oil paint all over the place. And, sculptors and artists and stuff just like super late at night, just staying up, like listening to music and working on these crazy projects that, like grad projects are nuts. Like, and the time frame you're asked to do them in is like just insane. So yeah, we had like these crazy late night conversations and stuff, but it wasn't unusual during that to be like, hey, can you stop what you're saying for a second and pose like you're punching someone in the face? Great.
Right.
Okay, cool. Back to our conversation, so that's one of the things I'm hoping, like in theory, that's what I want to do with this stream, as well as obviously like promote my book and stuff.
Josh, did I tell you that was for Wacom, right? That was one of the animations I did for Wacom. They loved that Instagram post.
Yeah.
Like the first one I showed them, they were like, cool. It was like one of those things where you could, if I'm reading too much into it, I felt like they were a little disappointed. They were thinking like, oh, why did we sign up with this guy? But then that one, like without me reaching out to them and saying like, hey, I made the second one. They reached out to me. They're like, dude, that was great. I love that conversation you had. It was so funny.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we partnered up. I was like, oh, good. Glad I make weird faces on live streams too.
But I mean, I think that's the fun of live streams, and like I said, I think if I really wanted to have these like grow and succeed, I would go through and like pull clips from the live streams of like cool conversations. Like Jake, who's on here, is just like incredibly hilarious and always like brings something new and awesome to like conversations. And I met him through these streams, and I think that's been like, to me, that's been one of the fun things, is like, you know, being able to hang out with somebody in like Norway, like who's hilarious and interesting and cool dude. Like, I don't know.
Amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it's been cool.
I feel
Sorry, I'm
slightly
getting
underage being here though. So
That's true. I forgot to mention that Jake is 4 years old. He just has a.
Hi, I'm Chris Hansen.
I knew this was a sting.
sorry I had to do it to you, man.
I love it. Yeah, so that's, I don't know. I think that's been cool though. Like, that's been cool. But I love being able to just like hang out with other creatives. Like Jim had these great meetings, and I don't want to say the name of them because that's going to sound really bad on the stream.
You can. It's okay. Really, go ahead.
What was the name?
CLAM as in monkey meetings. That's what I will say, because otherwise that could get pulled out of context.
It's CLAM because it was Cabrera, Lujan, and Millsap / Montijo.
Yeah,
because it was myself, it was Jose Cabrera, a great artist, did Crying Macho Man. It was Lonnie Millsap, who's a great cartoonist, does Bacon, and it was Rody Montijo, who's a great artist that does the Halloween Kid and some other stuff. And the 4 or 5 of us would meet at Cantor's a lot in Hollywood, and we would just talk. And we would, for months and months and months, we had these once a month meetings where we would each keep each other in check for our projects. And the goal was to tell what your problem area was, to let the other guys know, hey, I'm having an issue with this. And then the others would give you advice, and you'd have to follow up the next month and kind of report on it. And we got all of us, we did it for like a year before we brought anybody else in. And then we started bringing other people in, and Josh was one of them. And then we just and then it kind of turned into more social. And at one point there was like 15 people there, you know, at the meetings, and they were called clam meetings, and everybody say, hey, we're going to a clan meeting this Friday night. You know? But that's where it comes from, clam.
Yeah. And that's why I hesitate, because I had a few moments where I'd be like, yeah, I'm just gonna go to clam, and like this clam meeting, people are like, what?
Josh is
it's a mishearing.
Josh is from the Antelope Valley, so
yes. So unfortunately there could be bad connotation, but yeah, those meetings were awesome. And like one of the things I loved about them though was like hearing what other people are working on, and also just surrounding and this is something I've always tried to do, which is like surrounding yourself with people who are constantly producing things makes you produce more. Whereas I feel like if I ever get in a rut and I haven't been around like creative people long enough, then I'll just like suddenly like be okay with like lower expectations of myself. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go get a book that actually, this is the first time I've ever shared this on the, but it's a book that kind of was the reason that we started Clam.
Oh, I love it.
I'm gonna go. It's not the Anarchist Diary either.
It's not Dianetics or something.
The Anarchist Recipe Book or whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna get my dad.
Anarchist Cookbook.
It's like, okay, guys, after I get the book, there's going to be a couple questions. I'm going to give you an acting course. There's a low sign-up fee.
Dude, just hit me with the test already.
We're going to do a communications course, and you're going to learn how to have better relationships free of thetans. I mean, sorry, I didn't say that.
Free of thetans? Oh no.
It's so I will tell you, like, Jim and I are in LA County. Jim way closer to downtown LA. And yeah, you're gonna definitely bump into quite a lot of those acting courses in Los Angeles. So it's not abnormal.
I just went and ordered it on Amazon, and he just delivered it right now. So that's how fast it was. But funnily enough, it's going to be backwards, I think, isn't it? Oh, no, it's not.
No, that's right.
Never Eat Alone, which is funny because that's what we used to go there to do. But this book was recommended to me from a girl named Alexia who directed the Bill Plimpton documentary called Adventures in Plimptunes. And she said this book was instrumental in her actually achieving that goal. And I was like, and she explained the book to me, and I just kind of sounded like a lot of work. But I'm like, well, you know what? She's been so adamant about it. I'm gonna get this book, because she was very insistent that I get it, this book. And then when I read this book, it says, and other secrets to success, one relationship at a time. This book should actually be called Never Eat Alone, How to Network Without Being a Douchebag.
I love it. Yeah, that's really good.
Because this book is all about making connections with people, but completely genuine connections, not fake, not like, hey, how's your kid? So anyways, it's really about like stopping what you're doing. Like, you're a human being, stop and like really get engaged with someone. And it might not lead anywhere. It might just be a one-on-one relationship, or it might be a lifelong partnership, a creative or business, But then it's when you have relationships like that, they're real. They're not just, and you're also selective about, about who you want to do business with, because you really get to know people. Yeah. And it's huge. And it's also like one of the pieces, it has actionable things in this book that were really good, that helped me achieve some goals. Like one of them is, and I don't follow this, I mean, I'm bad about this, but here's an actual tip from this book. It says, when it comes to your career or your goals, make one scary phone call a week.
I love that.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean call somebody up and go, I'm in your house. Although I do that.
Stop it, Jim. Stop it.
But, no, to like the person that you want to get in touch with, that you're like, they might reject this, or this isn't ready to show them. There's a long list of people that you must have like that to call, to make one scary call, or it could be somebody you haven't talked to in a while.
Yeah.
Or you're afraid, or like, is our relationship strained, or a phone call that you're scared to make one of those a week. And then he says, by doing that, it's just like it builds like a callus where you're like, you become a little bit more fearless, or you don't become so hesitant to make good things happen.
Dude, that is such good advice. Like it's weird because I've done this before, but still, even approaching stores, like I feel like a jackass like every time I'm about to do it, because I'm like walking in there and like, yeah, I've had a career and stuff like that, and there are some people who know my stuff, but it's a very small group of people, right? I'm not like some famous dude. Mm-hmm. And so for me to walk into like some comic shop that has like never heard of me, it's my work's being published by a publisher a lot of them haven't heard of, right? And it's like I'm walking in there with a book into a retail establishment being like, hey, do you want to possibly carry this book and set up a signing? And these are people who are setting up signings with like Bruce Timm and like people who are like legendary and famous, right? And I'm nobody. So I walk in and I instantly think all those negative things, like when I'm about to walk in there. And I always am thinking of giving myself an out by being like, well, I have a career, like I'm already an art director. That's a position a lot of people would like. And I'm happy with like what I do. So like, really, do I even need to do this? Like at the end of the day, I made a good book. And then I just have to overcome that fear and just go in there and also overcome that pride. Cause like a lot of that for me, like a lot of my struggle is pride too, where it's like, I just don't want the hit to my pride of like going in there and having them be like, yeah, we don't want to stock your book, cause I'm like, but it's a good book. Like, but like I did, I went to like 6 or 7 of those in one day and just one big sweep. And every time I walked in, I had this moment of like, just, this is scary. I don't want to do it. And then I just did it. Every time I live stream feels like that too, where it's like, it's scary before I do it. And then I do it.
I saw your vlog on that, Josh, about you stopping at the comic book shops. And I thought, it was really inspirational. It just reminded me like, yeah, you got to kind of like be blindly confident in your work and not look down, like climbing a tree. When you look down, you get scared, because then there always can be that moment of, who do I think I am? Yeah. And I know for me, like most of the negative voices I hear in my head are Corey Kerr.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's
Mine,
intentional. I'm listening in your ear at night.
See, there it goes. I just heard it right now.
Yeah,
mine-
yeah. I actually heard it that time, which is weird.
Yeah.
Wow,
mine
it's
too.
funny.
It's
Yeah,
weird. I used to do this show called 48 Hour Art Check, and like I'd hear it all the time, and I
Oh
don't
my
know.
gosh.
And then whenever I do indie review show, which you can check out on irsagency.com, it's strange, but I hear this voice all the time.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna ask. How are you guys with taking compliments too? Do you guys deflect them right when you get them, or it's kind of weird, getting...
I recognized that I was deflecting, that I was like when people would compliment me, I would argue with them and try to convince them against the point that they were trying to make. Like, well, let me talk you out of that cool thing that you think about me. And then I recognized that I was doing that. And so then I did this weird pendulum swing all the way to the other direction. And that weirded people out. Like people would compliment me and they'd say, man, you're a really good illustrator. And I would say, oh, I know, thank you. and then people are like, oh, I don't know how to take that level of confidence. So now I have no idea what to do.
I usually just say thank you, Paul.
Yeah,
I love you too, Mom.
Yeah. I told you you have a restraining order. You're not supposed to be calling me. I think I used to be a little bit like Corey, where I would say like, and I would start talking. Like if they complimented some aspect, I'd be like, well, I wish it could have blah, blah, blah. Like I'll sit and now I'm way better at saying, that's very nice, thank you. But I can tell you internally, it falls right through me like a sieve. Like I get it has no shelf life in me. It doesn't make me feel any better about myself. I don't believe it necessarily. It just I just let it kind of glide right through and I say, thank you, that's very nice. And it's not at all like any kind of criticism or anything like that, which I absolutely will sit and think about.
Do you think you have imposter syndrome?
No, I think it's I don't know. It depends how we're defining imposter syndrome. I think in my case, I feel I'm always anticipating, I think, like rejection from the club, if that makes sense. Like you're not one of the cool kids, which is not the same. I don't think that's the same as imposter syndrome. Like I think my work is fine. And I think I've certainly paid my dues, and I've been an artist my entire life, and I've been a creative my entire life. And like I've never thought like, oh, who the hell do I think I am? But I do think like someone's gonna find some way to reject me on something. Like, for example, here's a perfect example. I am not super literate when it comes to comics. Like I was into comics until I got a Nintendo, and then I was into video games, and so my knowledge of comics ends at about like 1988 or something, and then it's like I don't know. Then you can ask me anything about Sega Genesis or Nintendo or whatever. So like I always imagine that I'll be doing a video or I'll be doing a signing or I'll be talking to someone and they'll be like, what do you think about this run of X-Men or something in the 90s? And I'll be like, I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. And they'll be like, oh, he doesn't like, his comic cred or something. Like he doesn't know. He's not really one of us. He's not. He hasn't read this book. He doesn't know this author. He doesn't know this artist. Like that.
That's describing imposter syndrome.
Yeah. I was gonna say to a T that is imposter syndrome, dude. Like the whole thing.
I guess then I might think of imposter syndrome differently.
Yeah, because the whole thing behind imposter syndrome is like they're gonna find out and then kick me out. Like so in a case it could be like it could apply to social situations where it's like, hey, they're gonna find out I'm not one of them, like that kind of thing. It can also apply to like they're gonna find out I'm not really as good of an artist as they maybe think, or like I'm not gonna like be adequate enough. Like when I went into teaching, like Corey can attest to this, but like almost every teacher has this moment of like when you first teach a class, like nobody who teaches their first class has taught a class before. Like And
Right.
you know, even if they've taught it, like maybe like for me, I was like an assistant for my friend Rick's class, and even in there, I felt like an imposter because I was like, well, Rick's just having me on here because we like the same music, you know, like that kind of thing. I was like, he's not really like picking me as like a TA because like he thinks I'm a good artist, you know, which is weird to think back on because it's like now Rick and I are peers, although I still feel like way outmanned by that guy's skills. So like imposter syndrome is just like any scenario. Corey can probably speak to it better, but my understanding is it's like any scenario where you feel like you're going to be found out as an imposter. And in what you're describing, I feel that all the time with comics. I have missed pretty much everything from like the late 90s on in like anything remotely mainstream in comics, which I'm not saying as a brag. It's like I missed like the whole image boom, like the second image boom and the good image boom where like they actually started putting out like some really cool indie stuff. And constantly feel kind of out of my depth when it comes to like talking comics, you know? So
the reason I guess I'm reluctant to embrace it as experiencing imposter syndrome is I definitely do feel like an outsider when it comes to comics. But well, actually just in general, full stop. I always feel like an outsider, but like also in comics. But I don't mind that. Like I actually kind of embrace it and like it. I think that's a little bit throwing like a callback to our hipster talk. Like I like feeling like, you know what, I'm not really from that scene. And I kind of enjoy that. I think I just do anticipate that, like, well, I might never be fully accepted in like certain communities because I don't have those weird arbitrary credentials. And that's kind of how I think of them, as weird and arbitrary. Like I don't think of like, it doesn't make me feel less. It just makes me think like, well, you know, like I'm not going to be able to relate to them in the way that they like to relate to comic people.
Yeah,
I can agree with like Gary on that because I speak from like a true outsider perspective now when it comes to like American comics. I have jack shit to say about it, and I'm sitting across the pond here, just like feeling I'm alone while being online, but at the same time I'm alone in my near circuits as well because nobody gives a shit about comics. And it's quite it's quite like rich in that you can feel indifferent about it, but at the same time you can enjoy it by being by yourself. Like it's different being like lonely and being alone, right? Because when you're alone, you can like do it without having to pay due or show nerd cred or whatever. But it's just like an attitude adjustment. Because I'm not of like a collector mentality in the way that you like buy floppies or slab and shit. I just I just want to consume comics. Like it doesn't matter where they come from as long as they come into my house and spread open wide for me. So
I like it. I think to me it's one of those at least for me, I relate to what you're saying, and it like goes back to like honestly like, you know, this is a weird conversation, but like to be vulnerable like this for me, I guess. But it's like, you know, like to me, that reminds me of high school in a weird way where it's like when I was in high school, like I remember talking to like super popular kids who were like, oh, it's so sad you're not popular. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I don't fucking want to be in your club. Like, I hate you guys. Like, I actually play rock and roll. Like, I play gigs when I'm not here at this stupid school doing your stupid things. Like,
was this a recent conversation, Josh?
Yeah. I'm telling you, Jim, I don't want to be a part of the club.
This is last month, Josh.
Frequent high schools,
but
and what's weird is him that he doesn't want to be part of their club.
Yes. Yeah, but I do experience that as an adult too, where it's like, you know, I'll be like sitting and I think some of this actually has to do with autism too, where it's like I literally I can't even force myself through a sports conversation. I just can't. Like I have no interest.
That is autistic, man.
I have no interest in it at all. Like I don't care about like I had a brief moment in like the 80s where I really liked the Lakers. It was like the back-to-back era.
Josh says that just as I'm drawing a guy dunking a basketball.
Yeah, for sure.
Great.
And actually, that's a guy dunking on me, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm too cool for this. No, but like
comics.
I guess what the thing is, like, I feel like my whole experience in my life has been finding, like, and this is why I liked things like Clam that Jim was describing, or things like this stream, where it's like I constantly feel like in my life, and I want to hear Paul and Jim on this too, but it's like for me, I feel like in my life, most of what I've been doing is just building my own tribe, because most of the tribes are just stupid and I hate them. Like, you know, so it's like, I want to find my own group. And I felt that way moving to Portland. Like, there were a bunch of indie cartoonists I was really excited to meet, and Jim can probably attest to this. I don't want to name names or anything, but it's like in LA, you experience this all the time, where you're like, oh, I'm going to meet other artists and they're going to be really cool and great people. And then you meet a lot of like really shallow, like, just petty people, like in Los Angeles and in Portland as well, where I'd go to like these indie cartoonist things and be like, finally, where people love comics. And it was like, you know, you'd really just be at like a crap talking club, you know? And it's like, so for me, that's where it's like, I like the idea of just building my own tribe, because I don't like a lot of the tribes that are out there. And so I 100% relate to what you're talking about, Gary.
Pre-built tribes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also I understand that that's unusual. And so I do have a bit of imposter syndrome with that, you know, where it's like, I will be like, you know, when I'm pitching to sell my comic, I'm like, that's a little harder to be like, hey, this is a little weird. It's not your normal comic, you know?
There's such a thing, though, as being an outcast that doesn't even fit with the other outcasts.
Yes.
If that makes any sense. Because I'm going to give you an example. You could be, I hate to use Nickelback, but I'll just that's the only one I can think of. But let's say you're the kid that loves
Nickelback always come up.
I know, I don't even have anything against Nickelback. It just, all right, let's change the name to Quarterback. I don't
Corey,
know.
could you stop looping this shit into Jim's brain?
Corey, come on, give me a break. All right, but let's say you like this band or something like that. That's your favorite band, and then all the cool kids are like, "Get out of here with that band." You're like, "Oh shucks." So then you go hang out with the outcasts, and he goes, "Hey guys, look at this," and they're like, "Get out of here. We only like Black Flag and and the Descendants, and like they like punk rock. You've just been outcasted from the outcasts."
Yeah,
so
totally.
There's such a thing as that, and there's a lot of people that fall into that category too.
You know what you're describing, Jim? That's called normcore.
Is that really a thing?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Normcore.
Yeah, normcore is like, it's not the antithesis of hardcore, but it's just like middle of the road, kind of bland, and you just accept kind of the rut. You dress in the rut and you listen to and watch things in the rut. It's normcore. There's a better definition for it. Hold on.
I feel like that's me.
It could be. So normcore.
I'm so normcore.
Let's see. What is it?
I like sports, Josh.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing, is like, I don't have a problem with people liking it. I just I personally have trouble maintaining conversations about it. Like
I do get that. I understand that, though. I get it.
I have a lot of trouble just with small talk in general. Like,
yeah.
I can fake it. I think it's taken me most of my life, but I can function if I'm at a work party, something like that, where you kind of you're out with friends and you're meeting somebody's spouse and you have nothing to talk about with this person. Like, I can do it.
That's Frank. Yeah, that's a good one, Frank.
But it's exhausting. Like, it's really.
I have a limit. Like, if they start talking about the golf swing. It's like, fuck this. I'm out of here.
My brothers-in-law, my wife is third of 9, and mostly sisters, and so they married all these guys that are way into sports, and I have stopped pretending years ago, like 10 years ago. Anytime that conversation comes up, I just leave the room. Like, I don't even sit there, because I'm just like, I will go sit outside on the porch in the dark by myself rather than listen to you guys discuss college sports again.
And to shot of Corey sitting out in the dark on the porch by himself with the music all by my. But yeah, no, I totally relate.
Hello Darkness starts playing.
Exactly. So I think that's one of the things I like about the idea of building your own tribe, though, because I even felt that. I remember, I was really into punk rock, but what turned me off from a lot of the scene of punk rock was the fact that they, if you were like, hey, I also really like this song by Prince because it's pretty badass, and they're like, you can't like Prince, and it's like, well, why not? Like, why can't or Neil Diamond or something? It's like I don't
gatekeeping.
Yeah, I don't tend to like.
Yeah, the gatekeeping is. Yeah, I can't. Yeah. I think that's one of the perks of getting old. To me, that reads full disclosure. So I don't know. Am I the oldest person here? I'm 46. I don't know, or am I at least in the running?
No, I win.
Jim's got you by 17 years.
I'm older.
So I think that's one of the perks of getting older is that reads is very childish. This kind of that music is lame, or that shirt you picked out is lame, or why are you wearing those shoes? All of that just gets so easy to dismiss as we get older. Yeah. Because it just plays as such high school horseshit. Yeah. It's kind of easy just to be like, whatever, man, it makes me happy. You know? And
I've always been like that. I've always just been like, I like what I like. And
I wish I was always more like that. I think I had to kind of work on it,
I want to hear more about this. I want to hear more about this normcore thing.
I do too.
Normcore, the term was actually coined by an indie comic artist, and then it got picked up by GQ, and it's become a thing. It's Ryan Estrada. You guys know Ryan Estrada?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, Ryan Estrada normcore.
So is it kind of a slur then? Is it kind of a dig at
I got to call this out because it's just awesome. So Frank said you can't like Tom Jones and also like Alice Cooper. You can like Tom Jones with everything. Tom Jones is amazing.
Yeah. And you can like Alice Cooper with everything.
That's true. That is true.
I briefly met him a few times because he used to show up for all the Star Wars premieres. He's Phoenix area.
Wait, Tom Jones or
no, Alice Cooper.
Okay, because I was like, that's pretty rad if you're palling around with.
And he was always there for the midnight showing for every Star Wars opening. So as was I. I never saw him in line camped out like I was, but he was always ushered in, and he would meet and greet a little bit.
That's awesome.
Okay, here's the Urban Dictionary definition: a subculture based on conscious artificial adoption of things that are in widespread use, proven to be acceptable or otherwise inoffensive. Ultra conformist.
So is it ironic?
It's not ironic because it's not you can have normcore hipsters which are doing normcore ironically, but it's just
I'm sincere as fucking normal.
Well, I don't think you're normcore because I think you're just who you are rather than making conscious decisions to fit into it.
Okay.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that's weird. It's you're choosing, so you're I
told you guys,
I don't listen to Adele because everyone's doing that, and that's the safe mainstream thing. Is that would that be the logic of a normcore person?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I really liked Huey Lewis and the News when I was a kid. I mean, they were good to me.
Huey Lewis and the News is nothing to be ashamed of, man. That is awesome stuff. Huey Lewis and the News.
It's my favorite band.
I love that band. I freaking loved them as a kid. When I was all hardcore into punk rock, I would still be rocking Huey Lewis and the News. There's nothing wrong with Huey Lewis.
The best line from American Psycho is he mentions Huey Lewis. He says something about their new album. It's too black.
I think American Psycho kind of gave a sort of a high level appreciation. An introduction to a high level appreciation of Huey Lewis and the News. I think his little monologue about it.
That is true. That is totally true.
Excuse me, I have to return from video.
I think and I can honestly say this. I believe in this. I am okay with any kind of music. The only kind of music I'm not okay with, or music fan I'm not okay with, are people who are closed-minded. You don't have to like something, but people that are, because I grew up with closed-minded friends about music. They only liked this genre right here,
right?
And I liked everything, but I couldn't play it around them, So as an adult,
There's some music I literally can't stand though. Like that just is like nails on a chalkboard. Like a lot of neo country. I can't like I literally can't listen to it without feeling
what is
just,
neo country?
Yeah, give me a neo country example.
so I avoid it so much I can barely give an example.
He means like Georgia, Florida state line, or like Kenny Chesney. You mean like that?
Keith Urban? Keith Urban? Is
Yeah.
Orville
Yeah.
Peck. I don't know.
Here's one.
I would say like the she thinks my tractor's sexy kind of stuff where it just is like I just can't even
Is that a thing? Did you just make that up, or is that a thing?
No, there was actually a song called "She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy."
Well, maybe it was.
But
I started listening to Keith Urban. I like it, and so I liked it. I'm like, let me check out another Keith Urban album. I liked the first one I listened to, so I started listening to another one. And like the second song on there was good. I like the music because I never listened to country. Like steer clear of it my whole life.
Yeah, I like Willie Nelson. Like good country.
The second Keith Urban song.
Nelson. I mean,
second Keith Urban song had Pitbull on it, the rapper.
I can't.
And I'm like, yeah, man, what the fuck. I was pissed. I can't. Pitbull.
Yeah, so that's the thing is like I don't like to be exclusive. Like if somebody likes Pitbull, cool, but like that would be a really good example of like music that is like nails on a chalkboard to me. Like if someone's playing it, I'm just like, can we change the track, please? But like what you like, but. And there's some music I'm not like a huge fan of, but I can have in the background, and it's not a problem. But there are some songs, like Pitbull's a really good example of another where I'd just be like, I don't really want to hear this. Like, giving me a headache. And I love hip hop. Like, I love hip hop, which is part of why it's really hard to listen to something like Pitbull.
Sometimes it's tough. Like years ago, I dated a woman who got really into EDM. And I was so stuck on it because it just sounded like every goddamn Sonic the Hedgehog game I've ever played in my life.
Oh, shit.
That's really good, Corey.
Oh, thanks.
That is looking really
like
cool.
That's kind of
older woman. I was roommates with a guy who he had 2 CDs. And he listened to White Wedding every morning.
Oh yeah,
that's a great song.
Every morning, getting ready. Like that's like their song.
Oh,
that's like the get going.
Wow, that's great.
It was his like ritual in the morning. And so I listened to White Wedding every morning, and then he would just play it on repeat. He might have had more than one Enya CD, but every single song that Enya makes sounds exactly the same.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And so like. That was the soundtrack to my freshman year in college. Was just
every morning.
That's hard.
And just
that's
being
broad
into a stupor with elevator crap.
I love it. So you had White Wedding, and you were sailing away.
I'm very impressed by the breadth of taste there, whereas White Wedding and Anya, like that.
I don't know if you can call it breadth as much as just like it was those 2 touch points. There was nothing else.
That's coming in between.
I feel like breadth is there's a range,
That's true. That's true.
But it was just like this one song, no other Billy Idol songs, just that song.
Oh, just the song. Oh, I thought maybe the album. So just that song.
The one song.
Oh, so he's highly selective.
Right, and he didn't get ready in 4 minutes. And so we would listen to that one song on repeat like 3 or 4 times as he was getting ready.
So
I might have been playing it for you.
Yeah, I had roommates.
Are you
in
sure
college.
he just didn't want the dorm room to himself? Like maybe
that's true.
We also had a roommate. That was like full on roids rage guy. And he'd like punch holes in our door and stuff, not the wall, like the door. And I don't know how the roids rage guy didn't kill the Enya guy. You would think that would have happened.
Because that seems like that would come to a head. I had one of my college roommates. He was a big fan of the Highlander, the TV show.
The TV show?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the TV show. He had all of them on VHS tape, and he used to go out and get drunk, and he would come home drunk and watch Highlander, and he had a samurai sword. and he was swinging around,
Oh, no.
swinging around watching the Highlander. He was totally insane. And
Gary,
like,
can I just tell you real quick? This sounds like one of my cartoons. So
does it really? Like, it could be. So then after this was going on for at least a few weeks, and I had this moment of clarity where I was like eating cereal and drinking some coffee in the meal hall one day, and I was thinking, like, someday the school is going to have to call my poor dad and say, we're sorry to inform you that your son was decapitated last night when his roommate was drunk, watching the Highlander. There can only be one was shouted or something, and like, we're sorry, we're very sorry.
Burn out and fade away.
Yeah, can you come and collect the body? So I was like, okay, well, I gotta head this off. So I finally went to him. It was one of the most difficult. I'm not a confrontational person, but I felt like I gotta have a real talk with my roommate. By the way, I don't remember his last name because it was only one semester.
Was it Salazar? Because he just said I had a replica.
It might have been.
Highlander.
Okay, it was Frank. But like, I sat down and I was like, hey man, do you have a second? And he's like, yeah. I was like, so you can't keep the samurai sword in the dorm room anymore. And he's like, why not? I was like, well, it's against the dorm policy. So like, you're gonna have to put it in your trunk or something. And he's like, well, how are they gonna find out? I was like, I'm gonna tell them. I'm gonna tell them. You don't get it the fuck out of the dorm room. And we barely talked after like the big, like, you can't keep your samurai sword in the dorm room anymore. Like, it was very chilly until he finally left in shame, which is a whole different story. But,
so Gary, you were a very unreasonable roommate. I mean,
I was
everyone
totally impossible to live with.
Yeah, I mean, everyone should be able to swing around their Highlander sword. So
while drunk in a tiny little dorm room. Yeah, right.
How are you going to tell them with no tongue?
I relate so much to the music thing because I had these two roommates in early in college. Like, we lived in Huntington Beach at this apartment. That was like, we had like 6 people just like all crammed into like a very tiny 2-bedroom apartment to afford it. But it was like a walk away from the beach. But they were like, most of my roommates were complete potheads, like beyond like your average pothead, to the point of like just pot was circulating in that apartment nonstop. Like there wasn't like a minute of just clear air. And but because they were so stoned all the time, and at this point in time, I didn't really smoke pot, like I did in high school, and then just got over it. And I'm not against it. It just stopped being interesting to me. But what was interesting was they would listen. This was right after the Love Below albums came out, and they would just listen to those 2 albums on repeat for a year. The same time of night. They'd get totally stoned, and then they would have the same conversation that they had the day previously, and the same profound, like, oh man,
that's
this
so
part
rad.
of this song. Did you hear the keyboard in this part? And it would be the same part every night. They'd have this like profound realization about like some deep meaning of the lyrics. They'd have the same exchanges. And I remember having to tell them, I was like, look, dude, I went to the restroom yesterday in our bathroom and I had to wash my hands. And then I had to wash my hands again because I touched the surface of the tile, and it's coated in about a half an inch of resin. I have to draw I was like, I have to draw, and I can't be stoned when I'm working on drawing, and I'm getting contact highs from just being in this apartment. And you guys have had the same conversation for about a year. And I kind of want you to have a different conversation. Yeah. And I really, really like the Love Below albums. Like, they're amazing. But like, there's other albums. It was like this big thing. But anyhow, they ended up smoking pot outside after that, which was a nice. Yeah. But I can't. In retrospect, I'm kind of surprised I put up with that for a year.
And then they put on White Wedding.
Okay, I have a question. Back to Highlander. The theme song for the TV show, do you guys remember that? It was by Queen.
Yes.
Okay. I remember, because this is back in the like 80s and 90s, right? When it was difficult to get music. It's not like you could just like look it up, you know. I remember thinking, man, the rest of that song has to be as bad as that part, because it would like cut out and you could tell there was more.
Mhm.
It is one of the most disappointing experiences of my life, which probably says a lot about my life, when I listen to the rest of that song. Have you guys heard the rest of that song?
Is it called Who Wants to Live Forever?
I don't know. I'm not sure what the actual
I
title
thought
is.
it was.
No,
But
I
at
thought
the beginning of the song is like, you know, born to be kings, we're the princes of the unit. It's like all this hardcore stuff, right?
Right.
And the guitars are hitting and everything, and the beat. And then there's just this huge like boom, you know, this power chord. And that was the end of the intro to the TV show. And I was like, I've got to find the rest of that song. And so I finally, like, early 2000s, I found like BitTorrent, and I was like downloading. It's like, now I will finally get the rest of that song. So I got it. It immediately after that power chord turns into like a jazzercise disco rappy. Like Queen's super hit or miss for me. Like there's some good stuff and they really hit, and then there's some other stuff where you're like, oh, you know, and like the first half of that song was so rad, and I was into it in high school. I was like, yeah, this is great. And I would, like, you know, my friends and I would like talk about it and stuff. Like, we were into it. And then I heard the other half of that song. I was like, this is the biggest letdown I've ever heard in my life. I want you guys all to go listen to it. You will hear the change. It's like they just gave up. It's like they didn't pay us for the rest
Wrote
of
half a song.
yeah, they didn't pay us for the rest of this. So let's just put some guitar in here and just repeat the same lines
Guitar.
50 times.
Guitar.
That's awesome.
That was also my favorite He-Man character too. Guitar.
Oh yeah, guitar. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think I channeled Jim a little bit there. I don't know what happened. I don't know why I did that. But
Crossing the wires, are we?
I approve.
thank you.
I think that Jim is suddenly being the dark voice in your head, because he has the dark voice of
Yeah.
Corey. So it's
Yeah.
like it's
That
just
was
got to be
weird.
exchanged.
Yeah, it's strange that it just popped. Yeah.
You must never break the chain.
You know, oddly enough, Jim's cartoons are the way that they are because I only play the last half of that song in his ears at night. Well, that killed the conversation.
No,
I can
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm reminiscing on that terrible roommate. That's all I.
I was thinking about your terrible roommate. I have to say, like, there's something
Oh,
very
it was
intriguing about the idea of like some dude like watching a Highlander and swinging his samurai sword all around.
Drunk 2 a.m. Yeah,
yeah.
like that into it. Like, I mean, it was really the worst roommate experience I've ever had in my life. And it was only like, it wasn't even a full semester, but it was just, I have so many stories. Most of them I couldn't tell on air, but like, I mean, he was just, and my friends loved it because like, anytime we would hang out, it's like, let me tell you what, like, you know, Spencer is up to, and like, just update, like info dump, and they all loved it because they didn't have to live with them. But
It is very intriguing. I think you should do an autobio comic about your crazy roommate.
just those like 3 months, 2.5 months, whatever it was. You know.
My mission in life is to convert everybody into an autobiographical
Autobio.
cartoonist.
You don't have to convince me anything because me and my brother, we've cooked up something that you'll absolutely get disgusted by. There's this local painter who's hired by the municipality, and he's the most like beast of like a man you've ever seen. Like you will need holy water just to approach that guy.
Mhm.
It is absolutely crazy how much of that, how much of the anecdotes that my brother has been sharing about that guy. Oof. So you'll get it someday, but it will not
I
be
love
the way
it.
that you're expecting.
All right,
Ronnie in the house.
crazy roommates. We got Ronnie Gunter of Crimson Owl Comics.
What's
He
up,
also. I still need to watch. I was gonna watch the episode he had you on, Gary, and I still haven't watched it because I'm a bad person.
Yeah, that was terrifying. His it was like a writing challenge where we were randomly assigned he had like a random monster generator because the internet has everything. And you were given something, and then you had to come up with like a story concept fast. Like you had basically like by the end of the thing, you had to share your story concept given this monster. It was terrifying. But I've been yelling at him in Facebook because I came up with an idea. I pitched it in the show. It was fine. This is something that obviously it's not a real thing I'm going to do, but I've been thinking about it. Like thinking, and I've actually come up with a new thing. I was like, I want to take back my answer. This is my new pitch for this monster. And I've been like, it's all his fault.
So you've planted the seed of another story, conflicting stories.
Yeah.
The nice thing is you don't have to do that story.
You don't have to, but like, you know, I'm sure everyone here can appreciate sometimes like when your creative brain gets on something that you know you're not going to do, you don't want to do, it's not going to happen. You still kind of
rule, right?
Work that problem. But
You know the rule of that run, Gary?
What's that?
If an idea lasts for a week, it's worth it.
Oh, don't tell me that.
If that's
Yeah,
true, I need to live to like 500 years old because I've had ideas on the back burner for like decades.
I mean, that's kind of how Dinosaurs versus Marsbots happened. Because for years it was just like prints and like I had like a coloring book, like it was, you know, and it was because like people at conventions were like, you should do a comic, you should do a comic. I want to see a comic of this. And for a while I was just fully resisting. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. That's a lot of work. Nope. And
Yeah,
but
that's why you should like grab it by the boots, because the more it takes like hold of you, like rent free in your mind. It becomes like an obsessive chase that you can't really afford to do it, but you have to like sort of put it somewhere. So just like chuck it down and just if you don't have like the time, just cannibalize that thing for like another story. It's just supplementary until it becomes primary.
You got it.
I like that actually. I would say that's actually really great because I have like a million things I want to do in art, but it's like this comic was just like the thing I had to do of all of them, you know? That's how I pick. So like whatever that ends up being next, hopefully it's not like going to take a decade like this probably will have by the time I'm done. That's really actually pretty cool idea. I do hate when those seeds start bugging you though, because you're like, I don't have time yet. I gotta do the next thing. I don't know how Jim does it.
But I got a big seed bank now.
Yeah, and Jim, you've got like a whole rad backlog of ideas and concepts.
Yeah, but Jim is also magic and can like produce like a cartoon every quarter.
Magic. I want to use that quote on my resume.
Yep.
Jim is magic.
Quote me. Make sure
it's just to not be corny, but you know that they say, how do you eat an elephant? You know, bite at a time or whatever. It's kind of like that. Mm-hmm. It's just a little bit just chipping away. And then also finding a work method that is doable. That's not impossible. You know, so the meeting of, and then the third part is just how bad do you want to do something? Because that'll be the ultimate telltale sign. And I am magic.
And that's the fourth thing is magic.
Yes. And math.
And math.
Oh, definitely.
That was sort of implied, I thought.
It really helps.
Yeah. No, it wasn't
goes without saying.
So, have you guys been to the Antelope Valley? Speaking back, no, I'm just kidding.
Speaking of speed. Oh.
All right, so I am going to take another really quick break, and I'm going to push through and finish this page, but you guys are welcome to stick around and hang out or leave or whatever you want to do. I just want to always give people a fair out because it is like 3 hours in, but I will be on for a while, so you're free to hang out because I'm enjoying the hang.
Take a break.
I'm making progress on this page, so I'm going to keep hanging out.
See, I love that. That's
Josh, can you implement saying you're free to move about the cabin?
You are free to move about the cabin.
Okay,
can someone play a tone like the little light coming on? Yeah. Who has pitch perfect whatever? Yeah, I know it's not me, so
I'm gonna go roll my back out on a foam rollers because I'm a 90-year-old man.
I should be doing that right now, and I'm not. But.
The nice thing, the only reason, there's no other reasons. The only reason I hang out with Josh is he takes these breaks like clockwork. and it reminds me that if I sit in this chair for 9 hours, then I will be walking with a cane again.
Yeah.
Wait, you were a caveman?
How do I take me out?
He vanished.
Well, that happened. Guess I'm the host now.
Hiding themselves. They gotta check in with their OnlyFans, and they wanted.
Oh yeah, of course.
What happened? Did he jumped off?
Yeah.
Is he going to be able to jump back on? And Corey's gone
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, they'll be able to come back.
They just out of the studio, took themselves out of the studio, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're planning some special Artcaster surprise for us.
Yeah, it's like
Artcaster's surprise. That
they got on a different Artcaster and said, "Look at those dummies; they're still over on that other one."
They're gonna stream snipe this one and just like call us names and stuff.
They're going to put the title Fartcasters over us.
Oh my gosh, the Fartcasters is a great idea for a show. Jim, if you and I start doing like a weekly stream or something, we're going to have to call it Fartcasters.
It's where we just try different restaurants that are really gassy.
And you got to open Shardcasters and Dartcasters.
Sharkcasters.
I
Hey, look,
absolutely love it.
Fartcasters was really classy, but now you've taken it, down a notch to Sharkcasters.
Hey,
Really not.
That's where I hold them.
That's lovely.
Sharkcasters.
That's like, I think like that would be a review.
That's
cast.
exactly that's what I was thinking. It would be like Fartcasters, more like Fartcasters.
Exactly.
Whatever Kemble's smoking up in Antelope Valley sure is not helping.
Oh my gosh. I've always wanted to at some point, I think whatever I write after this book, I'm going to call like the best comic book ever or something like that, just to set up a reviewer to be like, it was called the best, but easily the worst. That kind of thing. I think.
I just want to say a review just says,
Talk about
in quotes, the review just says, Jim Lujan is a bitch.
And then because you said it on this show, you could actually quote yourself on that.
Quotes. And then 5 stars.
You pissed off someone that might think it's profound by looking at their review on Goodreads. That's
true.
That's a hot spot for finding the good critics out there. The art snob.
My favorite reviews are actually this is one thing I like about Chris Ware, and most of his books have bad reviews on his dust jackets. I think it's Jimmy Corrigan. It's either Jimmy Corrigan or one of the ones after where it says one of the quotes is incomprehensible and impossible to read. It's and I just love the fact that he not only included that, but hand lettered it on his page just to be I know.
Josh, would you still like Chris Ware if you found out that he was an assistant to Bill Cosby all these years?
The Cosby effect.
Assisting with the
Absolutely. That's exactly.
mixing the drinks.
Yeah, he was the mixologist for Bill Cosby.
He has the cocktail shaker.
Exactly.
Cosby.
It's like, Bill, I call this one, Where in the World Have I Been?
This is my Carmen San Diego.
Carmen, that's a great, horrible name for a cocktail. A Cosby cocktail.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Just filled up with a bunch of E and shit.
yeah.
We have to think of names for Bill Cosby cocktails, please, for the next 5 minutes.
Cosby cocktail.
I call this one the
One of them-
Theo.
One of them has to be a pudding pop, right?
This is the Fly Me to the Moon from Spain.
This one's called the Pudding Pop.
The pudding pop.
This one's called There's Always Room for Jello.
Oh my gosh. Oh no. Oh my gosh.
One in the pudding.
Well, I mean, you got to have just the straight up Huxtable, which
About the filth and flarn.
trying to think. Yeah,
Oh.
maybe a cliffside. I don't know. Gotta be
There we
something.
go. Not
Cliff
bad.
Diver.
Ah, yes.
Oh.
Here we go. Why is there alcohol?
Oh, I love that.
Don't get me started on the Fat Albert.
Oh.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, picture pages tonic. When you drink it, it goes.
Picture pages. I used to I love Bill Cosby a lot.
I liked his book on parenting, which is
Yeah.
so bad in retrospect. Like,
Yeah, it's right next to OJ's book on marriage.
yeah.
Here's what he will do. He'll go back in the bathroom stall and take a few ladies with him, and then do some bump, and then hit some 200 miles per hour shots.
Bump.
Oh, my goodness.
He's America's dad.
What is it? Booger sugar.
He did a lot of finger wagging at people for not living up to, the right standard.
Yeah. I know.
It's tough. Like I really, it's sad too. Cause I would tell people like how underrated, he had this stand up called Bill Cosby on Racism. That was like,
it sounds hilarious.
It was unbelievably progressive, and it wasn't funny, and that was half the humor of it. Like he'd do racist bits till like the whole audience was just horrified, and that was his one of his first stand-ups before he got like to be like the kind of like I've got my dental bit like comedian. Yeah, and it was like one of the most profound things I've seen in comedy, and to have that be something I there's a few people I can. Like for some reason, I'm okay with some people who like I can separate the art from the artist. With him, I can't. Like I tried. I really loved the Cosby Show. My wife and I had like the full series on DVD and stuff because it's a well written show.
Yeah,
and,
I love
I can't watch it.
That like he did like that comedy special. I think it's Bill Cosby himself.
Yeah, so good,
brilliant. Yeah,
chocolate cake bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To my brother Russell, whom I slept with, that was.
There's so many good ones.
No, really, that's one of the best comedy albums ever.
Yeah,
it's so good. I mean, you can't take that away from him. The only thing you could take away from him is those pills.
Well, you should.
You should. Yeah. Someone should.
I just read that he could have gotten released, but he's refusing to do court-appointed therapy or something, so he gets to sit in jail more. So he's like, I mean, talk about unrepentant. Like he's
Yeah.
I mean, it's for each person to kind of decide on the art versus artist thing, but like, there's some, like for me, it's weird because there's some I can totally separate it with. There's some I can't. But weirdly enough, I have that issue with Picasso too. Like, I have a lot of trouble looking at a Picasso. And there's all sorts of people in art history who've had like terrible histories that I have no issue with their art.
I have to admit, I know nothing. What is this? Like, what is the scandal thing about Picasso? I don't even.
Picasso was just a total douchebag.
Yeah.
But he was like really bad to women.
Like he used to leave the lid up all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't abide that.
Yeah, when he would butter his toast, he wouldn't over a plate. He was just rude.
But you can look up the issues with Picasso. A lot of them have to do with like legal age limits and a large quantity of people under certain age limits. Like
that's the thing. When I've struggled with Polanski because I love his movies.
Yeah, right.
Yes, greatest horror movie. One of the greatest horror movies ever made. Rosemary's Baby.
Unbelievable.
It's so good.
And that's why, like, he to me is the perfect example of like, I have to figure out how to reconcile this because, and here's the irony about Rosemary's Baby. I think it's a piece of creative work that made me, for the first time in my life, really sort of think about what it would be like to be a young woman and pregnant and stuck in a place and reliant on your husband who you're not totally confident in, and to be isolated and alienated, like all these, like it made me kind of think about what it would be like to be a woman with like situations only women would deal with that I'll never deal with. For that piece to turn on that part of my brain and I think make me a better man, to have come from Polanski,
Yeah.
that is something to reconcile, you know?
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like, no, I can't, like, I can't toss the baby out with the bathwater.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. I can't toss Rosemary's Baby out with the bathwater because I think like I'm a better person for that creative insight. Which I don't know. Maybe some people would say like, well, that's very transactional. You got something out of it. But like, well, isn't that art? I don't know. That one is the one that makes me think about it. You know?
Yeah, I have that with Woody Allen. Like I would say like probably my favorite filmmaker of all time, and one of my favorite writers. Probably might even be like my favorite comedic writer. I just absolutely adore Woody Allen. I went on a binge and watched like every Woody Allen movie ever made. I just think they're amazing. And he's intriguing and hilarious, and like even his old like one-liner jokes were really good. It's really hard for me to navigate that because the other thing is with Woody Allen, it's even more difficult because he writes these really confessional autobio type things. And so a lot of the problematic stuff is within the work itself.
Yeah, like Manhattan. You've seen Manhattan, right?
Yeah, it's so good though.
Where he's dating a 17-year-old girl.
But it's so like, I mean,
Yeah.
The credit sequence from that is like one of those like film school 101 moments, you know, where it's just like this brilliant thing cut in black and white with like Gershwin playing, and you're seeing like
just because one thing's true doesn't mean another thing's not. So
Yeah,
I mean, he is absolutely, and his movies are fantastic, a lot of them.
Right.
But it's just like the other part, you're like, and then the other thing too is when they go down swinging like that is like he's just completely denying it that it ever happened. So it's like it leaves this much open space for like in your mind, like, well, maybe he didn't do it, you know.
Yeah,
you have it on film.
I have a question.
I honestly like I can't. I'm not, and I should qualify this immediately. I'm not well studied on the Woody Allen thing, but to me that one's ambiguous enough where if you wanted to say like, well, I really don't know, like you do have room for that, you know, where like for example, Polanski, you have no wiggle room.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that absolutely happened. You know,
I mean, no pun intended.
Yeah, with Woody Allen, it's tough because like the longer it goes, the more those windows of wiggle room disappear.
Right now we're not going to say wiggle room anymore.
By the way, Windows of Wiggle Room was a great Polanski film. I thought.
That's also the name of another Cosby drink.
Callback.
Wasn't like the principal of Ferris Bueller's Day Off arrested for pedophilia or something?
Yes, he was.
There's so much.
Yeah.
There is so much. There's so much navigating with these incidents. You know what I mean? Like where I feel like to me the right answer is like like Gary, what you were talking about with Polanski. I don't feel like I have a place to be like, you can't separate that artist from that art, because I love Led Zeppelin, and it's like, dude, if we want to talk like some serious issues,
they ripped off their whole first album.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, well, not just the fact that they like plagiarized like half their stuff, but like also the fact that like just as human beings, I'm sure they didn't get up to a lot of good, like when they were like flying in jets, doing mass amount of drugs and sleeping with groupies. Like
David Bowie.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you know, like everybody adores David Bowie, or like Prince. That's another one. It's like if we knew every single minute of what this person had been up to.
Yeah, Iggy Pop, man. There's.
Kevin Cross. Corey
Care. I mean, like it's just
But anyhow, like it's one of those things of like I don't think it would be my place to be like, oh, you can't watch a Polanski thing because he's a terrible person. I think it's like one of those things of like you just kind of have to draw the line for yourself. Like for me, you know, for a long time I had no issue with like listening to like Michael Jackson stuff after the whole thing, and then like lately. For myself personally, I just like I have trouble like if I'm like at a grocery store and I hear it's after midnight, it just takes on a different and I'm like, I can't enjoy.
So I'll tell you about Michael Jackson.
Sounds like the Nightman cometh.
But I don't. I don't judge people who still can get down to bad.
Back when
I think, to me, it only becomes a dilemma if we're talking about me spending money.
Yeah.
Well,
the thing, it's like, well, I have this movie in my collection. I bought it before I knew anything, or years ago, or whatever. Now this, to me, there's no dilemma there. I think it's a dilemma if I participate in this person's work and they're going to profit from it. That's where then I start to wonder, I don't know. It depends. Now I have
Gary, let's take that to a meta then. Weinstein.
Okay. Weinstein is, that's complicated. I have to admit, it grosses me out, and it even rubbed off a little. That's a bad choice of words.
Wait, did it rub off in the wiggle room, or?
I don't. Give me a little wiggle room with this one. So the Weinstein thing rubbed off on. Weinstein is weird for me because he's so bad. God, now I wanted to say the taint of it. There's just no good choice of words with Weinstein. It's like the cloud of his malfeasance spread out where it's affected people around him. For example, Tarantino now, I sort of think, what did you know about that piece of shit, Quentin? There's people, it's who was going along? Who was turning a blind eye?
Yeah,
everybody was.
Some of it's so bad where it's everyone else is getting sucked into that black hole, which is another Bill Cosby drink, the black hole.
Yeah.
Welcome, Mr. Weinstein. Would you like your regular spot in the wiggle room?
It's a tough one to navigate, and Weinstein's a good example too, because it's you can't and I think it's definitely I think regardless, if somebody does something bad, they should have justice for the thing they did, and whether there's some rock star or artist or whatever, but at the same time, I think for myself, I just kind of navigate it by what I can, what I think is I can still listen to, and what I think I can't, and then I definitely, if it's somebody who's out there actively doing bad stuff, I don't personally want to give them my money, but that's that's my own thing.
Yeah.
So back when I would buy CDs, I had a bunch of Michael Jackson's music, but I think I still I didn't have the one Off the Wall maybe, and I wanted to get that, but then his whole case came up, and so I wasn't going to buy any Michael Jackson stuff. And then as soon as he got acquitted, I went and bought Off the Wall. So I had all of it. But, it was kind of obvious.
So let us entertain the thought that if we cannot separate the art from the artist, does a character post after they're dead, of course, can they be seen as the mediator of the art rather than the person behind it? Think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it this way, and I'm gonna track back to Gorillaz just to complete the whole full circle here.
Okay. Just don't show them.
I won't show him. So David, Albarn, if it came out that he did some really bad shit during the Blur days, and would that affect Gorillaz after his death?
Yeah,
it depends on how well they're known for the character.
Yeah, it also really depends heavily on what it was, and agreed. I think it might affect Gorillaz because they're so Damon Albarn. I don't know, but then there's Jamie Hewlett stuff in there, so it's I think the point is I guess my point is I don't think anybody here is saying that they have trouble separating the art from the artist. It's just more of for me, what I've been surprised by is the nuance of it. To me, there's some scenarios where I have no problem separating the art from the artist, and then there's totally some where I just for some reason just can't. And it's been interesting to me because I've always been the type. like philosophically, I used to be the guy who would be like, yeah, definitely separate the art from the artist, like all the
But then
time.
again, wouldn't that touch upon moral relativity?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, a little bit.
It's funny because all this conversation started from Ted Nugent.
Oh yeah,
You're right.
It all goes back to the Nuge.
It all goes back, cat scratch fever. It can't go
yeah.
right.
I thought Ted Nugent's album Moral Relativity was a little on the nose, though.
Or did he really have an album called that?
No.
Oh, I was going to say. That would be awesome.
I love that you delivered that so straight, Corey, that like half the room was like, I don't remember that.
I want to point out that I delivered that so straight that Jim Lujan wasn't sure if it was a joke.
Yes.
It just occurred to me that Wiggle Room sounds like it could be a venue. Like the Wiggle Room could be like a place where like a small band will play.
Yeah, that also. I think there is a children's entertainment band called the Wiggles.
There is, yeah.
The Wiggles?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore. Not after tonight. Not after they see this.
Yeah.
100%.
We just killed the Wiggles. Sorry, guys.
Well, I think the highlight.
It's getting really late for me now, so I'm hearing like really bad demon words and shit now. Oof.
The highlight for me is when Gary was really trying to be serious, sincere, and every word he took,
I know, and every word was almost worse. It was just.
Yeah, I like. So I think that's a. I'm trying to think of a transitionary topic, guys. Something not about separating art from artists.
Reference pictures. Thoughts?
Since I'm doing that right now.
Pictures.
That's
probably that's in my future. Once I get my panels, my thumbnails done, I gotta start.
I just want to say anybody who uses reference pictures is a total hack.
Man.
How often do we find ourselves using them?
I just used one just today.
Every opportunity I have. I'm totally past that kind of weird puritanical idea of like working from references somehow a cheat. Like I don't know.
Right.
It's ridiculous. That's another, I think, a young person's thing to like. You should draw everything from the colossal and astonishing inventory of your mind. Like that's I don't know.
Gary, I'm gonna like touch upon that. What does the meaning of like visual library come into play when every like pro has been referencing or tracing or swiping?
That's exactly my point when I get sucked into those unfortunate conversations where it was like any artist you like has been using
like Linebacker is a great example for a reference photo.
Sorry, what's a great example for what?
Like one of the great examples is Linebacker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He traced photographs all the time. Disney's been doing it, and Wally Wood was admitting
Wally
to it.
Wood. Yeah, I was gonna say Wally Wood, one of my heroes. Like,
he admitted
he was
to
very
it.
open about it. He was like, "Oh no, like that's look, you know." And look, I think that's a distinction that I think some artists need to appreciate. There's a huge difference between tracing and like using reference, even if you're drawing over the photo. It's a completely different thing. I mean, and what's funny to me is like I see a lot of people, I do it myself, like you might work from photos and references, but you find little ways to make it okay for yourself. So for example, like you might do like Corey's doing here where it's like, well, I have it to the side. So like, you know, I'm not drawing directly over my reference. I'm like, I'm looking at it the whole time. Or you might have a thing where it's like, well, I'm changing this in this way, or I'm doing it, you know, there's all these, but it seems to me like just ways to make peace with your own God. It's weird. I don't know. It's like weird. I don't think about it so much anymore. I trace everything and I rip everybody off, including everyone in this panel. No, I don't.
I think about it this way, that the masters would definitely use like 3D model programs like Blender and Unreal Engine and Gary's Mod if it came to it. Like all of these programs that you can manipulate figures and all that stuff. And I do it too. I hop into like 3D video games and I just rip off, like take photographs. I pretend I'm on a Safari. And I just take pictures of basic shapes and all that stuff that I can use. I just used it recently with one of my comics when it came to like a car because I couldn't get the perspective right.
Oh yeah,
And-
cars.
Cars. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
cars and buildings are definitely like.
Well, the way I like one of my something that'll make it okay for me. Like if I have to do a building or an interior space or something like that, I'll make it in SketchUp. I'll build it myself in SketchUp, which is a 3D program, and then I'll position it how I want it. And my justification is like, well, I made the reference. Like I built, like it's not like I went and, and like I when it comes to human figures, I usually find someone to pose and sit in. I'm not like just going to Google and finding, like people, and not that there's anything wrong with that either. But like the way I make myself comfortable with it is like I create the vast majority of my reference material.
I got the image when you said that of you pulling over in a van.
There's a little bit of that. I mean, you don't really want to hear all the details, but there is a drink called the Wiggle Room. I'm just
So I think like one of my favorite stories about like photo reference is like Norman Rockwell like was this stickler for drawing from life. And so he would hire these models and like have them pose right in front of him, and he'd set up all the lighting and get all the costumes and stuff like that. And he was really critical of like photo reference for years. And then I think he had to use photo reference to do some images like of like the moon landing or something. Mm-hmm. And after that, he basically said my past self was a jackass. Like basically,
yeah.
Like he just started using photo reference for everything and just hiring the models and taking a photo and then painting from it, because it literally just to have this kind of archaic idea of or like naive idea of how people create art, like it is awfully foolish. But I will also say, like, it's really important to have drawing skills.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And if somebody just hedges their bets and all they do is like trace or something, that's not going to benefit you as an artist.
I mean, I've read 100%. Lots of comics where you can tell they are basically drawing over the photo. And the problem with that, I have no problem with like the process. The problem with that is sometimes it's not enough. It looks a little stiff. It looks like you found the copy guy in your office is like, can you just stand here like this and look surprised? And they just drew that, and it doesn't look like you need to know how to push it. You need to know how to draw. You need to understand that it's a reference. This is your starting point. And now you're going to go from there to actually do a drawing. I think that's my complaint is like bad reference use, not use of reference. Like I have no problem with that.
Yeah, but people who are like puritanical about use of reference, like just I don't know. I have no words for them. Yeah.
It's
just to make up an example. Let's say you're drawing a pink pair of pants.
Hypothetically speaking.
Yeah, let's say. Okay.
With
women's pants, are we saying? Like maybe hypothetically?
With a kind of a gray shirt and
a French check.
Yeah. I would hope like it has some kind of woven element to it too, like maybe a scarf or something,
Woven on the top, party in the I don't know, everything's going with that.
I just like running loosely when it comes to comics. I think it's great that people can find new ways to create comics because it's a mixed media anyway. It shouldn't have to be like a stickler into like pen and pencil and just ink. It needs introduction to different things, and if it alleviates a lot of the issues of like struggling with perspectives and something, it's not bad. And people that invest in lenses and cameras to take or like original photographic references, those are the OG people that are really like they want to use their own material rather than to having to chase Google search engine for like 20 rows just to find some like cryptic thing that hasn't been photo bashed to pieces.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And it's something I've been banging on about in my own videos and when it comes up in other people's videos. Like I haven't always been this way. I used to be one of these kind of insufferable purists who like is the only real art is art that you have to wash your hands after doing, and you need to know like anatomy and like faces and everything right in your head. You shouldn't be looking right, like all that crap. I used to be that guy, and now I'm trying to be way on the other end of the spectrum where it's like I want to be. I don't care about process anymore. I care about product. Are you getting the work done, and is it what you were shooting for? Then I really don't care how you're doing it.
Yeah,
Like, as long as you're not stealing anything, ripping anybody off, if it works, I love it.
Yeah, and honestly, like some of the process should be, like most of your process, I think, should be informed by your product. So like for me, the reason I hand letter everything is not some kind of like archaic like idea of like that's when things were pure. It's just that like most of the comics I read, like half of the exercise for me of making 2 stories has been just I'm going to make a comic that I would want to read that kind of I feel comfortable with and kind of reflects the things I love about comics. So for me, one of those things is like I like that, like, and it's funny, I've been criticized too by someone really recently where they were like, your lettering is almost like a font, but it's got like these divergences and like the forms are different. You could do that a lot tighter with a font. And I was like, no, that's like, I like that. Like I actually, that's one of my favorite things is those divergences. Like I don't like when it's all streamlined and perfect. But all decisions should be informed. I think this does kind of loop back to the beginning because we were talking about, like Jim was talking about cutting parts in animation and stuff like that. It's like, why do you cut parts that are beautiful animation from your story? It's because they're not servicing the story. Like they're somehow halting the momentum of the story. Everything should be in service of the story. And I think that ties into what you're saying too, because it's like you shouldn't arbitrarily just like if somebody watched these when I start getting into like lettering and all that stuff, like later on in the process of this, I would be bummed if somebody was just like, well, Josh hand letters, so I'm going to hand letter. Like, no, you should hand letter because you want a hand letter. Like you want that look.
Right. And you shouldn't do it because you think it's some kind of weird flex.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't be like I did it all traditional because like I can do it traditional. You know, like it should be like what is the look you're going for? What is the story you're trying to tell? You're right. Like that should all be informing your choices. And ultimately, like the medium should be like, well, what is the story you want to tell? What's the right medium for? Is it a comics? Is it a screenplay? Is it animation? Like what's the best way?
I love it. Okay, we've been going for 3 hours. I'm going to take a quick 20-second break. People are welcome to stay. Go do whatever you guys want, but I'll be back in 20 seconds.
My pencil battery died, but I'm going to stick around. So.
I love it. All right. I think I'll be going for probably another 15, 20 minutes.
Completely wrecked tomorrow.
No, sure. That sounds. I can go till 1 a.m. my time.
I don't have to work tomorrow, so I'm planning on.
I know. I'm a government employee. I don't have to go to work tomorrow.
Hey, I don't have to go to work tomorrow either. Yeah, no work tomorrow party. Okay. Anyhow,
I'm going to be recovering from this, guys.
Why don't you guys do a go around and just let people know where to find your work too? Because it's pretty far into the stream. So if anybody's watching this at like 3.5 hours, which by the way, I've seen the analytics, we do have quite a few people who watched like the full thing. So at this point, maybe remind people where to find. Start Corey. Why don't you start, and then go to Jake, Gary, Jim, Paul, and I'll be back.
.com at the end of my name, so that's where you can find me. CoreyCurr.com. I think there's a link there.
Corey, are you? Oh, sorry.
What's that?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying there's a link there that says what's new, and that'll take you to the stuff, ironically, that is actually new. That's it. What were you going to say, Paul?
Are you going to do like a full rotation on this character? Because I'm wanting to see the other side.
Oh, man, no. Normally I would do that. But I actually specifically know exactly how she's moving before I did any of this. And so I don't need a rotation. But I'll show you the positions I need. That's it. So she's just moving her arms, moving her hips back and forth, and I think I might even be able to do most of this with puppet pen tool. So I've got to go in and do an elbow for these forearms and 2 hand positions per arm. So I've got 4 hands and and 2 elbows to do, and then I'm done. I don't even think I'm doing her shins. I got to go check and see where I'm cutting her off, but I think I cut her off mid-thigh,
So Ronnie is bailing from the chats because he's probably got to go to work. So thank you for hanging in there with us for like 3 hours. And then Frank's taking off as well. So thanks, Frank, for like hanging through the whole chat. Yeah,
Frank, I'm sorry I made you get rid of your samurai sword in college.
it's true.
Frank's
Frank,
bail on us early, huh?
You're a good.
Frank, you're soft.
Oh, Paul's bringing in the sports. I love that though. I will say I respond very well to that kind of thing, like the drill sergeant kind of thing, where it's like, "Is that all you got?" I'm like, "I no, I've got more. F you." Like I have to. This is a good, I think, a good potential topic. How much of your art has been fueled by F you? Like as like a I'll show you kind of thing. Like Corey, have you ever had art that's just fueled by like a F you, I'll show you I can do that thing? Oh, is Corey gone? Corey's gone. Okay. Jake,
all
your
the
art?
time, bro.
Yeah.
All the time, bro.
Spite fueled art. I love it.
No, it's not spiteful. It's just like, yeah, I'm gonna show you how to do proper fucking comics because none of you understand shit. So let me let me break it my way, and then you could you could either take it or fuck off. I don't care. See,
love that.
this is like the spiteful side of me coming through into like vocab. But if I put it into craft, it becomes more like articulated. It becomes formed. You know, I gotta craft it like a sculpture with a big middle finger sticking up in their ass.
Wow, I love it. That was powerful.
Yeah, there's a lot of feeling there.
But I actually I actually do understand that because I actually I think that's good practice for people who have ideas of how they think art should be. A lot of times, like in practice, like you both become more critical and sometimes less critical. Like there's art I'm a huge fan of as a cartoonist that prior to like really making comics I wouldn't have been a fan of. And now it's like, now that I see the craft, I'm like, oh crap, like that's really hard what that person's doing, you know? So yeah. Gary, what about you? Do you have any sort of spite fueled have you in art?
It's very subtle, but there was it kind of helped nudge me into finally doing the comic. So I was doing D versus M stuff, but not comics. The girl who listened to the Sonic the Hedgehog music, like she I had been like kind of playing with the idea of a comic. I'd been thinking of story possibilities, and I hadn't talked to her about it in a while. I would bring up the ideas to her, but then like anyway, months had gone by and I brought it up again. I was like, I was kind of thinking if I did a comic, maybe I would do something like blah blah blah, whatever I did. And she said like, oh, I didn't even realize that was still a thing that we're thinking about. Like she had kind of just assumed like I had moved off that and I wasn't going to do it. And something about that really bugged me. Like it really bothered me that she just assumed like I wouldn't follow through. And that kind of like, I think that was like a little bit of a nudge where for me personally, where it was like, you know what? I really need to actually put out a finished thing. I need to actually do a difficult thing and put it out.
Yeah.
I like that.
I don't want to cut in. We got a bot on Twitter. No, Twitch. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I got to follow the standard format. I love to actually read the bots because I think it's hilarious on the stream. So apparently, if you want to become famous, you buy followers, primes, and viewers. And then there's a link, and it's from iClarion12318, which sounds like a very legitimate username.
That sounds like a person. That sounds like somebody's name.
Yeah, thank you, iClarion12318. I'm sure you're not a random bot on Twitch.
Apparently, the website is also called Big Follows, and I don't think the internet would allow you to have that unless you could actually follow through. And
yeah, for sure. It's like Best Coffee. Yeah, it's like Best Coffee. You know, if it says Big Follows, that's going to lead to big follows. Corey, what have you done? Like, have you done art that was based on spite or fueled by spite, like, you know, in your life?
Like when I was upset?
Well, like fueled like a F them, I'll show them kind of thing.
No, I started being an artist really late in life, so I kind of grew out of the that stage before I did it. I think
That's good. That's
I'm
good.
trying to let's see. Yeah, I can't think of much that I've ever done that would be like that. I don't. I mean, I'd like to think that I don't care what other people think, but like completely, I think I probably do care what other people think a little bit, but to a certain extent, it never really motivates me to action.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Let me say that one of the like key like ignitions that I use when it comes to like that thing is my relationship with my stepfather, and just like this one episode with mom. But yeah, it falls back to like childhood thing when you can't like do anything, you just like sort of want to channel that energy, like that like deep seated rage that you couldn't like express because you were just you were standing there and you like show up like this cool little project that you spend an afternoon on, like one of the few times you feel you're genuinely happy and creative, and then suddenly you've been shit on. That has left a major impression on me.
Yeah.
And like when it comes like with mom, it was just it's just a bunch of comics. I bought the omnibus collection of Sandman.
Oh, nice.
The two big leather bound books, and she thought that I was like reading literature, but when she saw that it was comics, and like, you spent this amount of money on just comics, and it kind of like left me like earthless beneath my ground. Like there was no in between. It was just like a void, and I'm just standing there with like two big books in my hand. And I'm like, what? You betrayed me. You were the one that got me into comics, and now you discourage it. What the fuck? And then I went back to my room in total silence. I didn't say anything like that. I just went like totally shocked. That really like rippled my soul. Like having one of the, like the enablers and like the one that have introduced so many good series into your life and cherished and all that stuff all suddenly like go like that at you.
Yeah,
you start to grow a little bit resenting towards people that like don't take comics as an art form.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I just thought of something. This is probably worse. Not probably. This is definitely worse. I remember I had an experience like that where I was a kid and I was really excited about. I got this really thick cartooning book, and I was like 7, I think. And I showed my dad taught at the high school, and so I showed one of his colleagues who was the art teacher. I was like, "Hey, look, I'm going to go through this cartooning book," and it was like the biggest book I've ever seen. And he picked it up and he flipped through it for like half a second, and he goes, "This isn't good enough." And then my immediate thought was, "That's the largest book I've ever seen in my life. If that's not good enough, I don't think I can do it." And I didn't draw for 25 years after that.
Oh God!
So I had the wrong. Instead of saying "screw you," I'm going to show you. I was like, "Oh well, that seems hard," and
it shut you down.
Else.
So what's weird is when you got back to it, like you feel like there might have been a little bit of motivation to be like, you know what, screw that.
Go through that book.
Okay.
I have never been fueled by anger. It's just when I get angry or when I feel bad, I can't do any kind of art.
It shuts me down. Like
I got to be in a good mood. I got to be feeling good, feeling fresh, feeling spunky, ready to go.
Spunky.
Yeah.
Jim, have you made comics or art fueled by rage?
No, exactly what Paul just said. No,
I love it.
No, it's more. I think it's more a case of just kind of like a sponge soaking up ridiculousness and frustrations, and then you just kind of express it in your. So it's not like there's not like recognized rage. Maybe it like seeps out, But
I was going to say I don't think anger fuels me unless Corey's going to tell me differently.
I was just going to ask if despite all your rage,
you're still just a rat.
I'm still just a rat in the cage.
So
my goal is to get Josh's videos demonetized every time I'm on here.
I love it. So like for me, one of the first comics I did seriously was literally like it was initially like the first draft of it was a petty like breakup story where I was like, look how wronged I was. And then it morphed into me kind of making fun of that, like in the plot. So it like I luckily when I finally came to making it realized that like it was a lot better to just sort of do a twist, because it's like instead of it being about that, it was about somebody working and laboring really hard to get that story about the terrible relationship out, and then getting beaten to the punch by their ex that they were, vehemently trying to do this. So I think it was a little bit better, but still, like most of that comic was just fueled by rage. I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older,
I mean, I make things because I'm rebelling against them, but not because of spite. But like a lot of the stuff I make is a giant middle finger to like big tech and like zombie type behavior, the sheeple. So I mean, but I don't know if I'm angry about it. I'm more like that sad prophet guy
lashing out at Normcore.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a great guy, Normcore.
Yeah,
Norm's a great guy. Didn't he start like a chain of restaurants or something?
Yeah, his brother Harvcore is really cool too.
Oh, I love it.
Mean drunk though.
This is definitely not an effective speech bubble. You can't do a speech balloon with that long of a tail. I'm correcting it.
So, Josh, do you have an ETA on when you think your book 2 will be ready? Just a wild guess.
I am still gonna say like probably about a year, because of the way that I'm doing it, and it's kind of neat. I feel like it's like a tortoise thing where these things just kind of happen and get done if you stay at it. So yeah. I'm pretty excited. Much like Gary was just describing, like the next phase of mine is going to be like gathering photo reference and having as many people and like as many references as I can get, I'm going to get. But that phase will come after. What I do first is like finalize all the panel borders and the type and stuff so that I can actually even be better with my references based on these tight thumbnails. So I'm doing a little bit tighter thumbnails so I can have an easier time doing that second part. And then I will go to photos and then pencils and inks. So the neat thing is right now I have like 2 pages left of the script to block out. And then I can move on to that second phase. So once I have that, I'd say I'm about a third through the work.
Wow,
which is kind of cool.
Very nice.
Very cool.
But I do have a tendency to think things are going to, on personal projects, I have a tendency to overshoot sometimes on my own estimates of how quickly I can do it. So there's that.
Yeah. That happens.
Yeah. I'm impressed by like Gary's turnaround is pretty impressive because you'll spend like a year and knock out, like a 64-page book, which is pretty
Once amazing. I get to drawing, it's very predictable because it's like I really hold myself to that page a week rate. It's just getting to the point where I'm drawing. That's where there's always like I never know how long it's going to take me to get the script right. I never know how long it's going to take me to figure out my pages and my panel planning and all that stuff. And that's where I'm really bad at estimating. But once I start drawing the first page, I can tell you exactly when it'll be done.
I like that. What about you, Jim? How long till you finish the animation?
I'm pretty good at guesstimating. I think this will be done by late July or early August, and that's kind of was the deadline from the beginning I gave myself, and it's so far I'm on track so far. Yeah. The problem I'm having right now the issue is, I had a destination length of how long I wanted this to be, and now I'm trying to chop it to make it work really well, like be tight and stuff, and it's going to just take time, just messing with edits and things like that. So, but
have you shopped around ours yet, Jim?
have I what?
Shopped ours around?
Yes, I sent it to a couple of different connections that I have, but I haven't heard anything back. So they said it was great, but who's this Corey Kerr guy? He sounds like he's trouble. I don't know if we're comfortable. No,
You're like, I hear that guy. I hear
one
that
of the people
guy
I sent
rides
it
around
said-
on motorcycles. And
Yeah.
bikers.
Carries a 357.
So one of the people I sent it to that I was
More.
hoping would just kind of give me a little bit more info, he just replied like, just real generic, like, "Oh, this is rad," It was Kevin Cross.
Yeah, makes sense.
No, he so he liked it, but he didn't. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, just curious.
all right. So I think I'm getting close to done. How are you guys doing on your projects?
We did the
Yeah,
page,
bro.
and I sent it off to my editor.
All right.
All right,
Nicely done.
Good.
Congratulations.
He really liked it. I did it like 3 hours ago, or 2 hours ago.
Awesome.
What's it weather right now in Norway?
Cloudy, and yeah, it's a little bit sunny, but it's very humid. I can tell.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I live close by the ocean, so yeah,
Oh, okay.
it tends to be that way. Like on my overview, because I can look like above the city, so the skyline is more like it's sort of like a humid pot. So all the condensation is like gathering into like a big boil. It's really fun when you view it from when it's really foggy, because you can see like the holder bottom is just like a fog bottom, and the the rest of the city is like it peers like above the cloud line of the fog sometimes.
Oh, wow.
And it's sort of like bobs every now and then. It's a really cool effect.
That sounds really cool. That actually sounds kind of pretty. But it almost also sounds really familiar to like Utah, but like by the ocean because of the bowl thing that you were describing. Because like I have some relatives who live in Utah, and like they talk about like the shape of the. Corey would know this better living closer to there, but it's like I guess the shape of the city and the landscape is like it's like a giant bowl. So
It's where the air
basically,
sucks
yeah, fog and like condensation and like smog just collects there for like half the year.
in. They call it
and then-
inversion.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, they're trapped with the mountain range and the and kind of that valley, and then there's like some anyway. So it just sits in this. They basically put like a huge civilization in the worst possible place from a pollution standpoint, and there's like 3 freeways that run parallel to each other, and it's a big state, but like really people only live right down the center of it, right in that inversion. And they just passed a it's like a huge problem. Like people there like have breathing problems. Like you if you grew up there, you have breathing problems.
Really?
Oh yeah,
It's like China.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's not like factory level China, but it's pretty bad. And their government just courted Amazon and FedEx and UPS, and they're trying to create a shipping hub.
Like China.
So anyway, yeah, I'm north of there by about 3 or 4 hours, and I want to tell everybody that our air up here is terrible because I don't want people to move here. But
did Josh what happened with Josh?
Oh,
I think
he pushed the
I'm
button
done.
on OBS.
Oh, he pushed the button.
I don't know, but he's got the Thundercat symbol on.
yeah, there's like a town here. It's called Bergen.
Sorry,
And
that thing force quit. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. And so there's like this town that is called Bergen, and it's located by the sea. And the funny thing about Bergen is that it's highly isolated. It's isolated because of like a mountain range of 7 peaks that circles around the town. And due to it being a harbor town, it sort of like puts itself into like an awkward position. But it can't be invaded, at least from across the country. So that's a plus, though. So it's like a mini Switzerland. But if you think of the effect of like the monsoons that happens with India because of like the weather always pulls in, but is also pushed back by the Tibetan mountains, creating like wild monsoon seasons. Same effect happens in Bergen on a much smaller scale. So it rains constantly, almost like constantly. So you get maximum like 90 days of clear weather, and the rest of it is just rain.
That sounds awful.
And then there's like that whole inversion problem that you spoke of. It happens too there.
That's craziness, man. All right, so I am done for the night. So I'm gonna call this stream.
Hey.
But I wanna say thank you to like everybody who showed up. Thanks specifically to like Corey, Jake, Gary, Jim, Paul. It's been fun, man. It's like a big hangout, which I really appreciate. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a really nice time, guys. It's good. I got my page almost done. So
good.
Awesome. So you guys are always
This is Roxy. Roxy just wanted to be on camera.
I love it. That's great too. That's an exclusive. That cat has never been seen on camera before.
She just said something. She said, "Free Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby."
Wow,
Roxy.
That's
sorry.
a take. Yeah, that's she's just trying to get clicks.
Roxy's attention whoring. No.
Yes.
So now I know what the title of this one will be, and it'll just say that with like a little dash and say Jim Lujan. That'll be my quote.
Are you going to call it Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, and Jim Lujan?
Yeah. But I also, more than anybody in the chats, I really want to thank iClary on 12318 for giving us the
my
option.
Plan actually is to get my credit card and figure out how to buy followers, primes, and viewers. I don't even know what primes are, but because I don't know, I guess I probably need one.
Yeah, I mean, I have like a Nigerian prince that I have to settle up with first, but I think after that, I definitely will. All right, so before we call it, why don't we do the rounds just one last time? Let people know where to find your work. You're on my channel, so subscribe, hit the bell, all that fun stuff, and buy 2 stories, which I'm going to say all the time for the next year and so on Amazon.com. Corey, where can everybody find your work, and where can they see previews of your animations and all that fun stuff?
Go to CoreyKerr.com. Go to CoreyKerr.com/online.
Awesome.
You're going to see all the newer stuff, and there's animation previews on Instagram right now is where I'm doing that.
I love it.
Yeah. So
cool. And I just realized I did not do the thumbnail for the IRS yet, and I need to.
I was going to bug you about that, but I've been late on it a number of times recently too.
I'm going to write that down, and I'll do that.
Both
first.
Behind on being a couple weeks ahead.
Yes. Okay. So IRS thumbnail. So Indie Review Show also tonight will be reviewing Darth Vader and Son by Jeffrey Brown, because I was tempted to do Clumsy, but I like Darth Vader and Son more, even though Clumsy's brilliant. So Gary, Jake, where can everybody find your work?
Oh, I'm here. Wow. Yeah, if you want to follow my comic submission, just head up at go not on YouTube, not yet. It's still under construction, but you can find me on Twitter. Yeah, I know it's a terrible place, real shithole.
But you can find me at JTV, not W, Ister, J Twister. And I hope I'll catch a few followers there. See ya.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks again. Jake's a hardcore member of the Night Gang too. So, all right. So, Gary, where can everybody find your work, and where can they read about crazy conspiracies that have just been disclosed?
I would say go to my Instagram, Dinosaurs versus Marsbots, Dinosaurs vs Marsbots. You'll get information there. You can get a link to my YouTube channel where there's lots and lots of videos about making comics. You can get to my Etsy shop. And if you're in the Phoenix area, you can actually buy Dinosaurs versus Marsbots at Ash Avenue Comics down near ASU. So it's very exciting.
Yes, that's a start of what will be more and more shops.
Right. The information, the truth is getting out there in a big way.
That's true. Although you guys might want to pick up copies there before they magically disappear, because that tends to happen. Sometimes men show up and then the issues disappear.
And no one even knows what you're talking about. You go in there and ask for it.
Said things on the show that are embarrassing to me and embarrassing to yourself. And you really should think about what you're saying.
So, Jim's Cat, where can everybody find your
I
work?
want to know what Jim's Cat thinks about Roman Polanski.
Roxy, you can find Roxy at hashtag hate speech. She's all right. You can find my stuff at just jimluhan.com. I think that goes to my YouTube page where a lot of my films are there. And I dare everyone to become a patron of mine on patreon.com, Jim Luhan.
You take them even if they did it out of spite?
Even $1. I dare you. Even $1.
All right. And Paul, where can everybody check out your work and your animations and all that fun stuff too?
If you go to paulpate.com, and then from there you can link to my YouTube page and my Instagram and different stuff. And I have some samples of my work there too. So.
Awesome. I'm glad this went well. I think this might be the most people I've had on one of these live streams, and I'm glad we managed to get through it and not. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks to everybody who's watched this, and
thanks for hosting, Josh.
Oh,
thanks.
Great party. Bring chips.
Thanks for inviting.
I will. I'll bring virtual chips. I'll hand out Doge coins to everybody. All right. So anyhow,
I'll keep you on that.
I love it. All right, so I will see you guys probably tonight on the Indie Review Show, which you can check out at irsagency.com. And till then, have a good day. Bye.